Let's get ready to rumble! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, possibly, wherever you're watching. I'm your guy, Nick, Shank Club, NFL in the building. Got a great show lined up for you today. Coming up in the second hour is the main man, Jesse Sapolu. He will be coming on in the second hour. So if you've got any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to put to Jesse, please either DM me on Twitter, put the questions in the comments on here, and I will get to ask your question to Jesse when he comes on. So we got a lot to get to. At the moment, it's me and me alone. I have sent the links out to people to join. So hopefully some of them are obviously going to join and make my job a lot easier. If it is your first time here, please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell so that you'll know when we're going live. As I say, big guest coming on today. Really looking forward to having Jesse on. And the only way you're going to get to see these shows, these certain shows, is going to be watching us on YouTube. This is the only platform we are going out on today. So hopefully you'll enjoy the show and come back and want to see some more, as I said. So Jesse coming up within the hour. Nice to see Logan in bright and early. Logan, I've got your question. I will be asking Jesse when he comes on. So stand by for the answer for that. Good to see you this morning. Also, I've just seen someone. There you
Hi.
go. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you well?
I'm okay. I didn't get much sleep, but that's
Yeah,
another whole
I'm very
story.
good. Really looking forward to speaking. You are the queen of no sleep by the looks of things. Whenever I see you on Twitter, and it amazes me when you send me a message and I'm like, that's really quite late over there, and you're still awake, which is amazing. And I thought
Well,
I had sleep issues, but that's
Jesse
another
had
story.
his call-in show last night, and I called in, and it was like all the way past 1 a.m. So, and then I got so excited that someone finally answered my question. I couldn't sleep after that.
I know what you mean. I did see you sent that out, so that's good. So yeah, hopefully we're going to get some nothing Niners in here. Mike said he might join. I've sent out Breezy and all the others, so hopefully they'll join soon. Logan says, "What's
Hello,
up,
good.
Melissa? You see, you're already getting the fan comments in already."
So how are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very, very well. Although I too had a weird night's sleep last night, but yeah, it was quite bizarre. I thought I'd been asleep for 6 hours and woke up and then was fully awake, and I'd only actually slept for 2, which is really strange. I don't know what happened, but so I've not had much sleep, but never mind. Got
Do you
some
ever
news
find
to
out
get
about
to.
that Sopranos thing?
No, unfortunately, that's been cancelled. So I can't even go and see my guys from Jersey and say, forget about it. So I'm really disappointed it got cancelled, but
I'm so sorry.
it is what it is, unfortunately. Quick bits of news to get to. Have you seen the news regarding Cliff Kingsbury and some of his coaching staff out there in Arizona. That's a shame.
I just saw the one Twitter post. I forgot who did it. That said that added 3 points to Arizona's score, and now that he's out.
I know. It's really weird because, and I know obviously the head coach is very important, but in the scheme of things, and we've seen it with head coaches go down and head coaches not be there. I mean, you only got to look at when Bountygate was on and New Orleans had to get rid of their coach for a year. They still played the season. I mean, this is only one game at the moment. They still played. They still came out to ball. And I'm sure Cliff Kingsbury's going to be on a mobile somewhere speaking to whoever's on the sideline. So I don't think it really, as much as I'm grasping at straws and they lose and the Niners, get a break and Seattle lose and things like that. I honestly don't think it makes that much of a difference, the coach not being there for maybe one game. As I say, we saw it for a year in New Orleans and it made no difference. What's your thoughts on it, Izzy? Do you think it really makes a difference?
I think Ronnie Hudson being out is a bigger deal than Cliff Kingsbury being out because of COVID. I think Chandler Jones being out is bigger deal, and I think Kyler Murray having to have his arm massaged every other play in the Niner game is a bigger deal.
That's because he was under duress, and he hasn't been under that much duress for a long time, I don't think.
I also think there was a little pain, but still.
The biggest thing and putting aside the good, the bad, and the ugly of Trey was just, again, how this defense stepped up again. And we couldn't, unfortunately, get over the hump and win that game.
Did you hear the Mark Sanchez praise for Fred Warner on Colin Cowherd?
I saw you reposted it. I must admit, I didn't see it or actually listen to it. But
was crazy. We're not used to Niners actually getting praise on national media at all.
No, well, they tend to forget if it's not in New York or they're not the darlings of the NFL, which obviously the Niners aren't this year. You don't tend to see much exposure apart from like on the local Bay Area media. It is.
I think it's a lot to do with we don't have a fantasy darling like on offense. Like we don't have a Kyler Murray or Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry or that name that everyone falls in love with because of fantasy football.
Yeah, and for what I couldn't even tell you how to play fantasy football, and I have nothing to do with it. So,
trust me, I already had my fill of fantasy football before there was one snap this year, and now after what happened this past weekend, this past week, I don't ever want to do anything to do with fantasy football. It's just awful.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I know Carl, bless him, and he's obviously not around this week because of the funeral of his grandfather yesterday. So he's spending time with his family today, which obviously thoughts and prayers out to you, Carl. I know it was rough yesterday for you. And yeah, so I know he runs our fantasy, and I ask him occasionally, and he starts coming out with all these stats, and it means nothing to me. It's just all gobbledygook, really. But fair play to him for running it, and I know there's a few of you involved in it. Sorry, I'm just reading a comment here from Logan putting it up. How are you guys feeling about the rest of the season? I saw we have the 26th hardest schedule, or is it the 5th or 6th easiest, one of the two, for the rest of the year. So we've really got a good shot to come back. Now, obviously we haven't spoken about this, but what did you feel about the game plan that Kyle put in last week for Trey? Speaking to Dion, I don't know, I know you were watching the other day when Dion was on, because Yeah, you must have worn your keyboard out, the amount of questions you were firing and comments on Wednesday. And it was
My phone did
interesting.
not get worn out, but thank you for your concern.
I'm convinced that, again, after rewatching it, that a lot of those QB runs were Trey pulling the ball down and extending, not Kyle keep calling these plays. And I probably think out of those, was it 16 or 19? Probably only 6 of those were designed. So in a way, it's good because he is trying to, extend plays and stuff. But a lot of people are saying that he's going to get himself killed if he keeps doing that. So what was your thought on the game plan that you saw that Kyle had put in for last week?
How do I say this nicely? I thought it was trash. I did not like it at all. I didn't like they didn't try to go deep very much. I didn't like that Trey Sermon only came in for one play, like he's Jeff Wilson Jr. I didn't like the protection on the offensive line. I didn't like that we went back to sloppy football again, where we had penalties take away big drives, like we did in 2019 when George Kittle had how many touchdowns called back because of penalty. I didn't like that Travis Benjamin was out there and we didn't use Jawan Jennings or Sherfield or anyone who had chemistry with Trey Lance. So offensively, there's not very much to be happy about aside from Elijah Mitchell, really. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, it did seem strange that, and we know that this offense, whoever's under center, the run game opens up the passing game, and it just seemed that the run game was trying to open the running game and nothing else. And it was a very, very, I don't know, I can't. As I said on Wednesday, we're never going to know whether they were design runs, undesigned runs, etc. So,
well, at least if we believe Shanahan in the Seahawks game, they were non-design runs because the mics weren't working. But that's all we'll get, I think.
Yeah, but then the Seahawks game, there's normally some shenanigans goes on when we go up there where mics don't work. But obviously, being at home, it's a different story. I think we have got a really good shot coming back. I mean, we need some results to go our way, obviously, on the bye week this week.
And I think we got screwed out of 2 safeties on defense, which I'm still upset about.
I don't. That's a whole other story of the officiating. I don't understand how those safeties, when it was blindingly obvious that Kyler Murray and the foul took place, and they didn't in the end zone, and they didn't even see either of them, which to me just is ridiculous. And we can all point to certain things that kind of add to the frustrations, but when you get calls like that, it just shows out to be just what are these people looking at? Where are they seeing it? Just that's the whole thing that mystifies me out of all of this. It's crazy. But do I think we're going to come back? Yes, I do. I just hope we don't have to see Stutfeld out there as the starting QB. That's the thing that worries me about next week. That's the real thing that worries me. So I'm praying Jimmy's injury and Trey's injury are healed. Then at least we stand as fighting chance. Because otherwise, it's just going to be pain.
Well, isn't the more important thing is our offensive line steps up and McGlinchey goes back to being somewhat decent again?
That's a very interesting point, and a lot of people have brought up, and I do actually buy this. They're so used to Jimmy G not scrambling, not holding the ball for that amount of time, and it's out within a couple of seconds, that it's kind of hard not to hold. And bearing in mind there was a lot of holding going on all across that line, and they did look ineffective because they're not used to it. And
my
it's quite,
grievance with McGlinchey goes back a few games though, because as soon as
oh,
they stopped using
I know
Juice and Kittle on the right side to help him block,
I thought,
McFloppy
to be
came
fair,
back.
he has been a lot better this year, a lot better. But last week, yet again, he went back to old McGlinchey as opposed to the one that was good when we first drafted him. So I kind of understand the frustrations, but I just think it's something where they're just not used to it, and not being used to something and something new like being inserted. I hope and pray they get better for whoever's behind there, because they can't have another shitstorm like they did last week. It can't be any worse. Let's put it this way: it can't be any worse. So
At
that'll
least it's
be
Carson Wentz
interesting.
that we're facing.
Sorry, say again.
I said at least it's Carson Wentz that we're facing.
You say
I'm pretty
that,
sure.
and I think that he's been pretty shitty, but he actually seemed to have a good game Thursday night. But he's still, as you say, I still think he's broken, and hopefully that defense will get on his ass, and we can't go.
Wasn't Quentin Nelson injured again, and they had to pull him?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
The other thing as well, you've got to with the Colts, they have looked bad, and I think there's more issues than just the QB there. I mean, everyone still brings up about Buckner going, and he hasn't been that good this year. So it kind of it's a weird one. But
I don't know which one's stranger, the trade back for Buckner or go back and get Emmanuel Sanders again.
Yeah, you see, we do miss someone like Sanders, and when he came in, it was amazing. Oh, I've just seen we got Ryan in the back. Let's bring in Ryan. Ryan, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hello.
Come on. You guys got me?
Yep.
Yeah, we got you, mate. Got you.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to meet you for the first time.
It's Melissa.
I'm Melissa. I'm sorry, Melissa. My bad.
It's
My
okay.
bad.
That's a good start.
I've been a heck week ever since that game. I've been, excuse my language, but I've been pissed all week because of that game. And you see how I felt, Nick. You see how I felt after that game, after I posted it. So basically, man, I know I have so much to say about the damn game, and the way that the package that he used for Lance was totally wrong. You don't want to put him in the fire like that and try to have him prove to the world what he can do, because you don't want to give anything out. You know, we know what he could do. We've seen his college film. Okay, we've seen all that. But basically, you know, the package he had for him was, I don't know what the hell it was. I mean, I knew he was going to put some RPOs in there, but not the way we wanted it. Okay? We kept on using him. I know he gets paid for doing what he does, but we don't get, like, Kyle's trying to play chess. I don't like him playing chess, because sooner or later, like in Packers game, they caught on to that. You know why? They took out our outside edge for the run game, because we had no run game. All we had was Sermon. So basically, that's where I'm at so far.
I don't know if you saw the comments that when I'll bring Dion back in a sec, because I can see he's just come in the background. He was obviously at the game, and we talked about it Wednesday, and the fact that for some reason most of those runs looked like the receivers were not getting separation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was why Trey was pulling the ball down and running. And possibly, let's just bring Dion in. Dion, good morning. How are you?
Yeah. Trying to get over this cold, man, but I'm doing all right.
What's up, Dion?
What's going on, brother? How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. How are you?
Like I said, I'm just trying to get over this cold, but I'm good. I'm good.
Like a true soldier, when Jesse Sapolu's coming on the show, you know Dion is showing out. And I'm telling you now, when Jesse's on, it's the quietest you will hear Dion, because he gets, like me, he gets all starstruck. And I remember the first time
me.
Jesse came on, Dion was like, he couldn't say anything for about the first 5 minutes. It's the quietest I've ever seen Dion. So he's kind of like, Jesse is Dion's kryptonite, if you like, to calms him down a bit. So Ryan, as I was saying, we were discussing that on Wednesday, and obviously Dion was at the game, and we were saying it might have been a case that because the receivers weren't getting separation, that's the reason why he was pulling the ball and running. And
Yeah,
we're never going to know how many of those runs were designed and how many of them were him freebasing, if you like. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I hated it. I really did. I don't want him to run that much. I mean, I know he that's what he does in college. The NFL is way different than college. You don't want to do that to him. Not this early, you know. We don't want to run him out like that because it's going to hurt him. He's going to get hurt like all the running backs are. I mean, you get paid to get hurt, yes. Injuries happen. They do. But when it comes to having a rookie quarterback come in and just show off his legs and everything and college trying to show what their fans want, he put him in there and see what he could do. And obviously he got paid for it because he got, what was it, a bruise or was it a strain he got?
And he had a so-called knee sprain, which I completely believe is bullshit. He ain't got no damn knee sprain like that.
Yeah. Go
ahead, man. I ain't gonna interrupt you, but I just wanted to let you know.
Man, you're good, man. You're good. I'm just, that's what I was afraid of. See that? The first game he started, I was afraid he's gonna get too many runs and break out, and I was hoping he would never had any kind of injury happen after that game, but he did. See what happens?
I saw something really funny on Twitter when I was up at, I don't know what it was, 3 a.m. this morning or something stupid. You've got like the 49ers Twitter at the moment is just madness with back and forth insults and this, that, and the other. And you've got Jimmy stands. And apparently now the new thing is if you really want Trey to do well, you're a Trey bot. That's the new saying. And this guy, I know, a Trey bot. So everyone is now Trey bots or Jimmy stands. So it's, and there was one guy, and I don't know if he was high or drunk, kind of like Jim Irsay was when we talked about that tweet he put out about the Colts winning the Super Bowl twice in the next 10 years. He was saying that Trey Lance has been exposed and he's injury prone. He's had 8 quarters of football or something like that and sustained 2 injuries. So everyone knocks Jimmy for his injury status, but apparently because he's had 2 injuries in 8 quarters, he is injury prone, and I don't know why the Niners are going with him. And honestly, I mean, I've got a thick skin, but that guy took some shit, and deservedly so, but it was just so funny. Dion, are you a Trey bot, Dion?
Yes, the fuck I am. I am definitely for sure one. There's no okay, this is part of the reason why I don't go on Twitter as much as I used to. Because of idiots like that. Somebody explained to me how a man who went through his whole high school career, whole college career, was never injured and has a supposed knee sprain is injury prone. He got us the first touchdown in the Packers game and gave us the spark that we needed to actually start scoring some damn points. He did what he could with a shit offense that Kyle Shanahan called on Sunday. And he's injury prone, and y'all, and to all those people out there, y'all actually believe he really got injured? You really truthfully believe that Jimmy just tried to gut it out in the first half and he just couldn't do it, so that's why Trey came in? No. Kyle got frustrated and went in the locker room And in his head, he was like, I'm tired of this shit, man. I can't keep doing it. This ain't gonna work. I gotta put the kid in. I went ahead and wasted all this damn draft capital. Fuck it. But Jimmy, you hurt. Something happened in your calf. Trey, you in. Anybody in the locker room got a problem with that? No? Good. Get the fuck out there and try to win this game. That's literally how it happened. I'm telling you. Like, it doesn't make sense that he can have that, that people can go that far. And my thing is, for the people with Jimmy, what are you holding on to? That's my only thing. Because his win-loss record is a team. That's a team effort. That ain't just Jimmy. Believe me, I've seen quarterbacks that can win games. And Jimmy has won a few for us, but he ain't all of those, whatever record he holds, 22-8, 23-9, whatever the heck it is. That's not all Jimmy. That was the run game. That was the defense. That was, the wide receivers. Jimmy did some things, but he didn't do. He can't. I don't heap all that praise on him because that's not enough. You've got to be better than that, And the issue is the right side of the offensive line has looked like hot garbage from Mac all the way over to Mac to Brunskill to McGlinchey. They look bad. And now people are calling for Aaron Banks to start. Here's one thing. If Aaron Banks didn't beat out Daniel Brunskill, what you think he going to do in a real game? People got to use their brains sometimes. I feel like every now and then.
I disagree there because I think Lenore has outplayed all the vets that were playing at cornerback right now, but for some reason they're putting the vets in.
Well, no, I wasn't talking about Lenore. I agree with you on that. They relegated Lenore to special team. So you're gonna put Dante Johnson on the field, who's known as a liability. Yes, he had a good game last time he played. Yes, he knows the scheme. But you put Dante Johnson on the field over Lenore? Why wouldn't you have Mosley on one side, Norman on the other side, and put Lenore in the slot, which is what we drafted him to do? Like I don't get it. So to all you people out there calling people Trey bots and Jimmy lovers, and I've even heard the term Jimmy sexuals and all kinds of shit.
Ew.
At the end of the day, period, I am for winning. I am for going to a Super Bowl and putting a 6 Lombardi in our trophy case. And we can do that with Trey Lance. We can't do that with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm sorry. The biggest issue is he does not know how to get out of the pocket. I was at that game, and I'll tell you this. There are at least 7 to 8 sacks Jimmy would have taken in that game because he can't move. But that I'm sorry, I went on a little rant.
That's fine. One question for you, Treybot. Treybot Dion, I'm going to call you from now on.
When I come on, that's going to be my little name right now.
Treybot Dion is your new name, I think. Sorry, Ryan, I had to mute you because we were getting a lot of feedback from your mic. So every time you come in and you finish saying what you're saying, if you can just mute afterwards, I don't know what it is, but we're getting some mad feedback from your end.
Okay. I was going to ask you that, too. If I have real bad feedback right now because of my daughter. My daughter's in the back and she's got her tablet. I know right now I'm delayed, real bad delayed on my phone. My phone sucks. It does.
Well,
I can't wait to get my new one.
I can hear you and see you clearly, though.
No, you're in sync. You're not like an old 1940s kung fu movie with English subtitles where you're 5 hours behind what you're actually saying.
What?
Dion, question for you. In fact, question for everyone. And you bring up a good point about Jimmy would have taken sacks. Now, that becomes more evident after what we were saying about the receivers not getting separation and not getting open. I actually agree with you, Dion, on that. But if they were getting open, the ball would have come out a lot faster. And I need to make up a new name for myself because I support both of them. So I'm gonna have to be a Jimmy Treybot, I think.
There you go.
I'll have to change my name to Jimmy Treybot. But do you think that's the case if there were receivers that could be open, Jimmy would have hit them with his quick release?
I don't know, because it all depends on where they are on the field. We know he hits the middle of the field. We know he hits the flat. We know he doesn't like to do the outside the numbers and or downfield. So it all depends on where they are. You know what I'm saying? And it's the issue, truthfully, from what I'm seeing is, one, the offensive line has to adjust to a mobile quarterback. We've never had that. They didn't play with one. So they don't know what he's going to do. So in the process of them gelling and this being the first year that they're all really together, that's going to be a little bit of a growing pain. And then the next thing after that is Jimmy might have hit a few people, but the biggest issue is that the offense, the game plan wasn't worth it. It wasn't supposed to be that way. That was like half of a college offense and a little bit of an NFL offense going up against a premier NFL defense. Number one thing, we should have ran the ball down their throats with Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell, because Trey Sermon didn't see the ball until the last part of the third quarter. Number two is, why would you have Trey throwing almost 30? He threw 29 times. He's a rookie, and he doesn't know the full playbook yet, and he hasn't been able to get out there and execute it because he hasn't had the reps in practice to do it and build a rapport with our number one receivers. So why would you hinder him and not give him Trent Sherfield and not give him Juwan Jennings, but give him Travis fucking Benjamin?
We said all this earlier.
A glorified punt return / kick returner. What route is Travis Benjamin running that anybody on defense is afraid of outside of a 9 route, which is a go route? And he didn't even do that. See, if you put that, I guarantee you that first interception doesn't happen if that's Juwan Jennings or Trent Sherfield. You know why? Because they're taller. And that's what they do.
That's
Juwan
the thing
Jennings
that
would have climbed the ladder and got that damn ball. I know he would have. He was standing there. It blew my mind to see Travis Benjamin. I'd say, okay, if he's up, then that means they don't trust Cannon right now. They're going with Benjamin for kick and punt return. Benjamin did none of that. Ayuk was still back for punt returns. Cannon was still back for kickoff returns. And it just didn't make sense, man. And I'm so close to the field that I didn't want to get myself thrown out of the Cardinal Stadium for screaming at Kyle, because I was literally probably 13 rows up on the 30-yard line. So I had damn good seats. It was annoying as hell, man, just to watch how we failed, man. And that's basically what you're right, Callie. It was a watered down Ravens offense. And the issue is the reason that Cap didn't work out is because they didn't just they didn't do what they did with Lamar. You see how Greg Roman has evolved? That's what Cap would have needed to be able to win. But nah, man, I really feel like it was set up for him to fail, period. And
hey, Dion, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you were there. I brought this up on Jesse's show last night. Is there any reason why we didn't give Sly more of a chance after overdoing it with Wisnowski as a field goal kicker the previous week?
I don't know. We went for it 4 out of 5 times we went for it 5 times on 4th down, and it doesn't make any sense because we were well within kicking range. We were in a dome. Anybody out there watching? A dome. There is no wind. There is no chill. There's no nothing. The ceiling on State Farm Stadium was closed because it is retractable. It can't open. It was closed that day. So Joey Sly being out there kicking field goals would not have bothered me any. At least we got the defense 3 points. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I would have cussed out everybody on offense if I was on defense. I'm tired of going out there busting my butt and you guys giving me nothing. Get it together. Brunskill, McGlinchey, figure it out. Do something. But no way in hell are y'all getting anything for Christmas from me. I'm not sending you a card. I'm not sending you a present. You know what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you one of those Christmas stockings with coal. And by the way, the stocking is coming from Goodwill.
Just out of interest, Dion, we were there, obviously. Mm-hmm. Was Joey Sly hitting field goals before the game?
Yes.
Was he full on warming up, doing everything?
He hit a 50-yarder before the game.
So
there's no reason we didn't use. Why bring in someone to have them sit when that's their job? That's what you're paying them for.
The other thing, okay, so that would tell me that maybe he tweaked something and they didn't want to take a chance.
No, he didn't tweak nothing. Nick, he was fine, man.
He made the kick that they allowed him to do. It's not like he missed.
As well,
they didn't use him.
I've seen on other shows, on other 49ers shows, nothing but Niners, etc., especially Nick saying that, go for it on 4th down more. Go for it. Go for it. You got nothing to lose. If you're in the right field position, go for it. Now, again, he went for it and it didn't. It didn't work, and that's down to play design. Who knows? But two of those, we could have probably at least attempted field goals.
Yeah, but the reason, I'll tell you this, so the 4th down, we're on the 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. Someone explain to me why we threw the ball. I need to know. Because I'm sorry, I have a bruiser of a running back in Trey Sermon. Why don't I get him on the field with Juice and let him run the damn ball in? No, I want to keep running Trey out there. I want him to throw. And then the situation with Juice, where he tried to quarterback sneak that, so to speak, that was a toss play to Trey Lance. Trey would have took that up the field and probably scored. You had 2 linemen pulling to go ahead and block for him. And you said you want to be a hero? You went to Harvard. So we know you're smart. You can't be stupid getting into Harvard. It doesn't work that way. I don't care what kind of money you got. You got to be a real smart person to get into a college of that magnitude. I know it for a fact. I have friends that went to Harvard. It's real hard. But let me stop, man, because I'll go on.
I'm really smart because when I went to Boston, I went to Harvard. Didn't do anything.
It ain't shit.
I just walked around the place and
You're
felt
smarter than me.
I felt really smart. I got to tell you. It's a weird one. And it's frustrating, and that's the thing that all of us wish we could fathom out what the hell he was doing and how he was working it out. And to do that same play that Juice had done 2 weeks previously or a week previously, is he? It was a couple of weeks ago, possibly. And to try that shit again, it's obvious.
He did it a lot last year too when Jimmy was out. They kept using him on quarterback sneaks
to a running back. It's bizarre. It's really strange.
Wasn't he part of that Saints trick play where they had Juice and Sanders and Raheem Mostert do the throwing to each other thing? That one touchdown.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't know if any of our probably one of them is an ex-QB, isn't he? One of our so-called wide receivers. So maybe they should have. I don't know. It just frustrates the hell out of me knowing that we left so much out on the field last week where that defense again. And as I said to you earlier, we've got to get something back for this defense. And that's the most frustrating thing out of all of this is we get in a position to win with this defense and then it gets screwed up. And that's the most frustrating thing. And I'm sure the defense feel that as well. And they felt it now both with Trey Bott and Jimmy Stain behind the line. They felt that. They play their asses off, Dion, like another level, put themselves in top 3 defensive mode, and then the offense lays an egg. And that's the most frustrating thing is, they get 3 and outs. Could you honestly have believed, let's bring Izzy back in, we have always struggled with mobile QBs. It's well known all throughout the Saleh years, okay? Look what we did to Murray and how we, apart from the the score to D-Hop, he was really quiet, and he was put under duress a lot in this game. And that's the thing that frustrates me is we get all excited by the defense, and then the offense flashes, and then it goes wrong, and then the defense is back out there. They make a stop, and then it goes on, and we're not capitalizing on it. And that's the frustrating thing for me. Doesn't matter who's under center. You know, Green Bay, with that game should have been out of sight. And we've seen what we can do against so-called subpar defenses in the Detroit game. Yes, I know they came back and it was a ballsy display. But we put points up. And it's almost like the offense, whoever's there, is just being strangled. And it's not a good look. Sorry, I didn't realise that I had to carry on speaking. I do apologise.
No,
I was
I didn't know
expecting
you
someone
were
to
done, so I
jump
didn't
in,
want
and
to
I'm
come
like,
on
oh,
and say
dead air.
anything.
That's not clever.
Yeah. I get you though. Yeah, it's definitely it's always going to be frustrating like that when you have those types of situations where the offense is not giving you anything and your defense does nothing. You know, because when you look at it from an honest standpoint, who threw our first touchdown of the season? Trey Lance. Who did he throw to? Trent Sherfield. When we needed a shot in the arm for the offense against Green Bay, what did we do? Brought Trey Lance in. Kyle just has to, he's got to stop. He's got to stop, man. And yeah, exactly. They ran no bootlegs for him at all. You know, and the thing is because of his dynamic of running, that's exactly what it is. If you run a bootleg, you know, and he can see green grass, it makes it easier. You know, and the other thing is they had Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt looking like superstars. But the defense did what they were supposed to do, man. They held them. Kyler Murray had 1 yard rushing, if I'm not mistaken. And that was it, you know. But it's just unfortunate, man. It's real unfortunate that
the thing
offense
that
can't
gave
get
me
going.
gave me the most hope that this season, you know, we are going to deal with the mobile QBs better than we've done in a long time. We did it against Rusty Wussy, and unfortunately, he's been put on IR. So that's a shame, Seahawks fans. Get ready for your fucking season to go down the tubes.
Yeah, because Geno Smith ain't winning you nothing. Geno Smith ain't giving you anything, bro. I'm sorry.
Isn't Geno's first game this week against the Steelers, though, who haven't exactly produced very well?
Yeah, but I mean, that's
their defense, and it's like with us, their defense and offense are polar opposites. And I think Carson's gone on IR as well, or at least he's out, possibly.
He's always out.
He's on IR.
That's where he lives. Injuries, even on Rusty Wussy, I don't want anyone to get injured because I do respect the guy. Yeah, he's a cornball, but he's a great QB. Absolutely fantastic. But now the Seahawks are going to be in a world of pain that we were in last year. And to me, sorry Seahawks fans, I just think it's fucking hilarious and it's delicious and I love it. Welcome to the world of pain, my brothers.
Sorry about my technology. I didn't want to I kept on leaving because I was trying to text my wife because she's in the store, so I'm sorry. I wanted to bounce off you, Dion, about that play with Juice running that ball for the fourth down. That call was stupid. It was stupid. It was so stupid. It really was. They should have never ran that ball with Juice like that. I know they were trying to do a tricky. Kyle, stop with the chess playing. Play aggressively. Don't play that, I know Juice is good for a fullback. He really is. But I couldn't stand that play.
Yeah, but
I don't know why
that's what I'm saying. That play was designed. That play was designed for Trey. It was supposed to be a toss play to Trey. He wasn't supposed to sneak that. Like that's literally like because I had a bunch of people who told me they watched the all 22, and the way that the way you see the lineman pulling and the whole line shifting, that's meant for him to toss the ball to Trey and Trey to get that first down. You know, but it doesn't make sense, man. I can't wrap my head around, you know, what the game plan was or whether he sabotaged him purposely so he could go running back to Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. I know from one of my buddies who's inside the Niners facilities, they basically are saying that Trey isn't ready. And that's why Kyle won't put him in. But my thing is, does Jimmy look ready?
Jimmy, when he took Jimmy out at halftime, he wasn't hurt.
No,
he was standing in front of the bench, behind the guys. He was standing behind them. If you have a strain or anything, why are you standing up for?
Yeah, you want to sit down and try to, massage that joint out, do whatever you're going to do, you know. And yeah, he does have more targets than Ayuk. And then John Lynch said it on KNBR. I was on last night with 49ers Ultimate Report. He was saying that he listened to the radio show with John Lynch, and Lynch was saying that Ayuk has made the strides that they want. So we've heard it from Lynch, and now Kyle has already said, that earlier in the season, Trent Sherfield beat him out. He's just playing better. But you still have him on the field. So my question is, if the guy isn't making the strides that you want, why is he still on the field? Why are you forcing him out there? Kyle's ego again. He's got to be right. He'd rather lose his way than win somebody else's. And I can guarantee you, if he actually gave up the play calling to Mike McDaniel, because Mike McDaniel ain't no damn offensive coordinator. We all know that. That's a lie. You helped out the homie. You gave him a fake title. He may tell you, hey, these plays may or may not work. At the end of the day, you call him the plays. And if the offense starts to explode and it looks great, what does that give Mike McDaniel? A real offensive coordinator job. Somewhere else.
On this panel.
Yeah.
Who's the better coach out of the last, I guess you want to call it 10 years? Jim Harbaugh or Kyle Shanahan?
Harbaugh. Easy. There's no question about that.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you why, from my standpoint, it's Harbaugh. He didn't fluff around things. He told you like it is. And he would say things, whether you liked it or not, he would say things. I mean, I remember when he was appointed and his first press conference, and he big upped Alex Smith and said, this, that, the other about him. And that really pumped him up. And you saw in that season what he did. And I know he got injured and Kaepernick came in, etc. and all that. But again, he was straight down the line. He didn't sugarcoat anything. And a lot of people didn't like him for it. He was true to himself and true to this team. And I honestly think the Niners did him a disservice. And he's obviously, I don't follow college football, but I don't believe he's been doing very well where he is. And he's been there for quite a few years and he's not doing very well. And we've discussed this before, right, Dion, with college coaches coming up and being awful in the NFL and then going back. I mean, Urban Meyer, I'm sure, he's over in London at the moment in the lap dancing clubs and pole dancing clubs, and he's going to stay on for an extra few days because he's got long lost relatives over in London, just so he can sample a bit more of the English hospitality. Just saying. And I think it's the opposite with Harbaugh. He was good in the NFL and not doing so. And from what I understand, where he is a very good school and they do get good recruits. So it just makes me wonder why he was good in the NFL. The relationship soured with the Niners in the end, and he was gone before the end of the season. Everyone knew he was a dead man walking. But it's the polar opposite as to, Urban Meyer. in the NFL. I just don't understand. But I loved Harbaugh. I thought Harbaugh was a great coach.
You see that video when he went to shake what's called hand. He didn't shake his hand. He patted him like he did to a Lions coach. You see that video on Twitter?
Well, not recent, but I love that. There's an old video from on. I think it's not OnlyFans. I can't think what it's called, but there's a hype video from
TikTok
that
or something.
Sorry,
is it TikTok or something?
No, there's a I think it's about a 20-minute hype video that was put out on Vimeo of that season where Harbaugh came in, and it's an amazing. And that was the Who's Got It Better Than Us season, and that. Again, I've watched that probably, 200 times, and it still gets me hyped watching it now. And I'm just thinking, why did it all go sour? Actually, talking now, I'm glad Dion's in because Dion does a brilliant Trent Baalke. Dion, or should I say Trent Baalke, what are your feelings on Harbaugh?
I liked Harbaugh. I really did. Here's part of the reason that I really did like him was because we had another college coach come from Stanford into the rankings, and he got us a few Super Bowls. That was Bill Walsh. So when you look at it as a whole, Harbaugh never had a losing season while he was here. Even when he left, he was 8-8. So there was never a losing season while he was around. And the faith that he wouldn't put into both quarterbacks was really good. And the thing is, what did Harbaugh do? Yes, he pat him on both shoulders. 1, 2, give him a little double pump to the chest. Tell him, you got this. You're ready. That's great from your head coach. You want to feel that kind of love. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you're with all of these people every day. You train with them. You work with them. You're on the field with them. It's a brotherhood. There's a dynamic that you must have, and it should exist. You know what I'm saying? If I'm Trey Lance, I want Kyle Shanahan to believe in me. I want to go to him and tell him, Coach, when you put me in there, I'm going to do everything I can to win. And I want him to look at me and go, I already know you're a winner. That's why you're on the field. Go out there and give me what you got. Give me everything you have. You give me 110%, I'll do the same for you. It's mutual. You know what I'm saying? And right now, didn't look at the same thing. You had Kaepernick, and you had Greg Roman, and you had Vic Fangio. I loved that 3-4 defense. That's to me, I like 3-4 better than 4-3 because you have quicker linebackers that are just coming off that edge and ready to kill. You know what I'm saying? And it sucks that honestly, when we were still looking for a coach before we hired Kyle, Adam Gase was one of our people we were looking into. Thank God we didn't get him because Jesus Christ, he had a dumpster fire over there with the Jets. But Adam Gase came in and he said, if you give me Vic Fangio as my D coordinator, I'm all in. They told him no. They wanted Tom Sula to be the D coordinator. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. If you give
John.
me Fangio, yeah, what's going on, John? If you give me Fangio, then I'll do it. But they didn't want to. So I think it was a real good thing. I think there was some issues between, I guess, York and Jim Harbaugh. But at the end of the day, that man's coaching career in the NFL, it didn't fail. He just decided to leave because he couldn't get along with people, you know. And I feel like at the end of the day, as an owner, you got to learn how to suck it up and shut up sometimes and just deal with whatever it is. Give that man whatever he wants because that's going to help you in the end.
Just got to jump in very quickly. Time out. I've just had a message from the main man himself, Jesse. He's preparing to come on. So he's definitely going to appear, and he's going to be on very, very shortly. I'm getting very excited. My speech is getting very, very fast. I'm going to mute myself. Shut up. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, Dion, bounce off your the defense thing. Do you think that D'Amico Ryan wanted a different kind of style of defense than Salah had it? Because he started from the front to the back, the 3-4. We're running around. We're running a 4-3. Do you think D'Amico Ryan wanted that, or he wanted to change up different?
I think he wanted to stick with that because the formula was winning.
Yeah, exactly.
It worked. The only difference is that D'Amico Ryan has brought in some blitzing and different things like that, because you didn't see when Salah was running the defense, he didn't blitz. That was just not something he did. Salah's ideology was the front four will get home. That's what their job is, and the back end should cover. They run their cover 3, their cover 2, whatever. But that's basically how that works. So that's what you get when you have a guy who wants the defense a certain way and a guy who does things a little bit differently. D'Amico Ryans is actually fantastic right now this year with the defense. We're doing what we can, and it's going to continue to come along. Our issue is the cornerback, and hopefully it continues to get better. I'm glad that Norman is back, and he's been doing pretty good for us. Mosley is out there doing his thing, but give that young kid Lenore more snaps. Stop putting him on the sidelines. The young man had ties to Deion Sanders. So why wouldn't you want somebody that has those kinds of ties there, out there balling, doing what he's supposed to do? And, Deion is one of those people, when he gets connected with someone, he stays connected. You've never seen him shy away from whoever. He'll literally tell you, those are my babies out there. He treats these people like they're his kids, like they're his family. So you got to give him that. So for me, I think the defense is working well, and I think he's running that 4-3, same as Salah. But I personally like a 3-4 better, because I want the linebackers that can. I'll take my two mics in the middle, and I'll take my outside guys. And yes, Callie,
how many linebackers do we have? How many linebackers? We have Warner. We have.
We only have 3. You have
Warner.
You got Warner. Greenlaw's on the IR right now. We have Warner.
Yeah, that's what it was.
We have Al-Shair, and then I think they're starting to mix in Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah.
And they keep putting in Marcel Harris, but I love me some Hufanga. I want that kid to be on the field as much as
I love Hufanga, man.
He finds the ball, and I won't say the nickname that Izzy hates, so I'll leave that one alone.
That's an awful nickname. I hate comparisons like that.
I want to quickly shout out John V's in the chat, obviously going through some personal stuff. Hope it's all good with you, bro. And we can't wait to have you back on the show. I know you wouldn't have missed this one with Jesse, but unfortunately you've got to. So, yeah, thoughts and prayers to you, JV. And we will get you back on again soon, hopefully, when all things have calmed down, my brother. Sorry, carry on, Izzy.
I just hate the player comparisons, and David Palomalu is definitely one of the worst ones to get, but it is what it is, and I think he's an absolute steal, so.
Don't we get someone off of the exempt list or something on the
Jeff Wilson Jr. should be coming back.
Yeah, but didn't we have someone that was banned for 6 games?
Jordan Willis has to be out, I think, 6 games?
Yeah.
So that means after the Colts game.
Yeah, you're right, Izzy. After the Colts.
So with that, does that mean he's able to train and be involved with the team on a certain level, or is he not even allowed in the building for those weeks that he's been out? So we may not see him till maybe week 8, week 9. I mean, I don't know how it works, if anyone knows how that actually
I don't
goes.
think you're allowed to, actually.
Yeah, I think you have to stay away from the team, period.
You can't have team meetings. You can't have the playbook. You can't have any of it.
Yeah.
That's why it was important that he had preseason, so at least he had something.
Hasty's back next week, right? Is Hasty supposed to be back by the Colts game or no? You think he is?
Like he wasn't put on IR, so maybe I don't know.
Can you imagine for the four running backs we'll have? We'll have Mitchell, Sermon, Hasty, and Wilson. Oh my God, I would love it. I would love that.
That's going to say a lot about this offense when we've got a full quota of running backs suited up for the game.
Major crossovers.
Right, I'm sorry, but I've got to cut in now, and I've got to introduce.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Guest, the main man, the one, the only. There he is,
Jesse.
the one and only Jesse Sapolu. Jesse, thank you for joining. You are the main man. You are the guest of honor. You are the only person that can shut Dion up for more than 5 minutes. Jesse, how are you?
Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you on again. As ever, thank you for your time. It's an honor and a privilege for me, and I know I speak for the rest of the 49ers fans that are watching, for you to come on. It's only taken me out just over a year to get you back on, but I really appreciate your time. How's things with you? What you been up to? Have you been doing camps, etc.? What's been going on?
No, we're in season right now. Obviously, it's a lot easier for us to talk if we were 5-0 or 4-1 with the Niners, but there's our defense played well, I thought, last week, and there's a lot of positive signs. The thing that I like about Trey is, I spoke with Keena about it, Keena Turner, the other day, is that he never looked like he was lost out there. Never looked like he was lost. Now we're just a little concerned because we don't want to throw him into the fire too much, and we see what happens to young quarterbacks. But I think he's shown signs that he is our future. But it's to the point where we design a lot of runs for him, and the concern is we don't want him to get hurt. So, but I think we have some positive signs that we played an undefeated team. We're all saying, he should have jumped on the one inch line, but it's easy for us to sit back and say that. But in the heat of the moment, he probably ran a lot of people over at North Dakota State. But I think he's learned that this is the NFL. You got to pick your spots and go from there.
Definitely. Got a couple of questions for you, actually, Jesse, and they kind of tie in together. Logan, who's one of our subscribers, he asked me this on Wednesday and then reminded me to remind me again to make sure I asked you this question. So he obviously wants your opinion. I'd love his opinion on our offensive line, especially the center and right guard. The last couple of weeks, it seemed off. And I'm wondering if any of this has to do with not being used to protecting a mobile QB. What do you think on that?
Well, I did both during my career. It took some getting used to when Steve came through. I think there were a little bit more penalties in this game more than usual, and that could be contribute to it. Just getting used to Lance being mobile, and I just felt like McClinchy struggled a little bit, and the young man that we have at right guard, has his struggles every now and then, but the good thing about it is we got some time to come together, to play consistent. That's the key to an offensive line, is being consistent. Not 1 week they play well where it gives us hope, and then the next week when we expect them to do it, some things leak through. But I think, that's the growing pains of not having a set five guys year in and year out. I think the advantage that we had when I played for about 7 straight years, when that starting lineup pops up on the screen, you guys know exactly who was at a position. We had the same line for 6-7 years. And the continuity is important, especially at that position, because, you have to coordinate what goes on. I wish I could say that the guys can just line up straight and come at you, but that's not how defenses are coached. Things happen that you haven't seen in a couple of years, and but if you have an experienced line that played together for a long time, you can make those adjustments coming back to the huddle, and that's what separates teams that go on to the playoffs from teams that have to rebuild themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be one of my questions, because obviously you played with the GOAT and you also played with the second GOAT. Now, obviously, I know you were playing into you moved positions during that time. When obviously Joe went down and they made the switch to Steve, who was more of a scrambling, running quarterback, how long did that take you to get in your all of the line psyche that it's a change up now? You're going from Joe, who could extend plays and bootleg and stuff, to someone that possibly could take off and run and was a totally different QB in a lot of respects. Was it easy to transition between the two, or was it quite a steep learning curve that you had to kind of get used to?
Well, it wasn't easy, but this is the honest truth. Steve sat on the bench for 3 years. So despite the fact that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback right now, the line looked at Steve as someone that was coming off the bench. So when he takes off prematurely and gets away from the flow of the offense, we had no problem screaming at him in the huddle. Just come on, man. But I felt like when Steve got hurt and ended his career, I won my last Super Bowl with him. He could have won us another Super Bowl at least. That's how good he was as far as running the offense the way we always wanted him to run it. But then add his ability to run with the ball. When we played San Diego in that Super Bowl and he threw 6 touchdowns, probably the young Steve would have run for 4 and throw for 2. But the Steve that became the Hall of Fame quarterback threw 6 touchdown passes. He threw a pass to Terrell Owens versus the Green Bay Packers in that playoff game I'm telling you this right now. Steve, in his first 2 years of starting for us, would have never thrown that pass, would have never trusted to squeeze that pass in between defenders. Because, it's tough. It's tough when you got to remember, Michael Vick was nowhere to, he wasn't even around at that time. So Steve was a newfound athletic guy that kind of influenced, even Donovan McNabb was a runner, but then Michael Vick came and just took it up to the next level. So, but Steve was the guy that all those young quarterbacks looked to use their legs. But for us in the huddle, when Steve came in, he was a backup quarterback, and we had no problems, talking to him in the huddle to hang in the pocket and run the offense the way it's supposed to be run. Now, if he gets in trouble, then go ahead and use your legs, but don't prematurely try to take off. So even when Steve won his first NFL MVP, it was still work in progress as far as we're concerned.
But you got to see the best years of both, which must have been amazing. Got one comment here, Jesse, for you. Mr. Sapolu, I need to find me a Sapolu throwback jersey. And that's me as well, because I want one of those joints, definitely. Was a beast on that O-line. Thank you for everything you've done for the faithful. And again, every time you come on, and I'm going to let the rest of the panel speak because they're all muted, and I know they're dying to speak to you, but it's my show, so I can hog the microphone. But definitely, I mean, every time that you come on, and I didn't ask you to bring the rings on this time, and I know you haven't got them, but I love that. I love the fact that you are coming on to speak to us, the faithful. And it's just an honor and a privilege anytime that you come on our show. And I didn't sleep well last night, and I'm kind of guessing it's because I knew you were coming on, and I am fanboy and I can't help it. And I know everyone else here can't help it. But again, thank you for coming on. I am now going to shut up, and we're going to go around the panel, and let's see if Dion can actually speak without messing his words up, because I know he does get a bit starstruck by all of us. So I'm going to go to Dion first, then I'm going to go to Izzy, and then Ryan, and then we're going to hopefully get some more questions. So Dion, over to you.
How you doing, Mr. Sapolu?
How you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, he is right. I do get a little starstruck, man, because I kid you not, like I remembered your name and I remembered who you were, and I went back and actually found like some old film. The biggest question that I have for you is, I understand the offensive line has to gel. Like they have to start coming together, because these guys didn't play together, all last year. There was no Daniel Brunskill. There was no Alex Mack. McGlinchey, Williams, and Tomlinson are the guys. So what is the hardest thing with a mobile quarterback? Is it just the fact that he's that unpredictable, or is it like the fact that he wants, that like you would rather him hang in the pocket as long as he can because you want him to trust that you guys are going to be able to do your job?
Well, I think the hardest thing is not so much him trying to run all the time. It's where he runs, especially when he try to run to the outside, especially when those tackles are trying to protect. And they think they're doing a good job, and all of a sudden, the quarterback is on your right shoulder, and the only thing you can do to keep him from catching the quarterback is
grab on.
But that's something that they'll adjust to. This is the most significant playing time that Trey has ever had. But I think when they take off in between the two guards and center, it's not really that hard unless you get beat. But it's those runs to the outside when the offensive line doesn't know that he's taking off to the outside. That could cause some problems. Now, that being said, I've always believed that if you move your feet, that will cut some of that down instead of being surprised and then stop pulling. Because even if we don't have a perfect block when we're engaged with those guys, as long as you can move your feet just enough for that quarter, because quarterbacks can outrun a lot of those defensive linemen. At least Steve Young can. Trey can. But, we all know what we've had to go through with Russell Wilson and what we had to face. And obviously, the young man from Arizona is even faster. So, but for me, Wilson is the one that is really dangerous because he's made some crazy plays. When I thought we had him, even the last game we played, he was almost getting sacked, and then he turns around and goes the other way and then throws a pass, and that put him up 14-7 against us. And but yeah, that's what makes it a little bit difficult. But I think the more Trey plays, I just don't want to waste the good years that Trent Williams have left. Because the great thing that we have now is we really, not saying he'll never get beat because he's human, but just the less worry that we have out there at left tackle makes it feel good. And you don't want him to get old while we're still trying to build an offensive line, so that, hopefully Brunskill and McClinchy, continues to get better. Mac is a veteran, but they still have to come together.
Yeah. The other thing was, as far as Mike McGlinchey, like what is it about him that stops him in pass coverage? Because he's really good in run. Like you can count on him in the run defense. But I just get confused on what happens with the pass coverage. And you playing all over the line, you had to do different things, and different positions call for different types of techniques. So if any, what flaw do you see in him that is getting him to that point where he just can't hold up when it comes to the pass pro? Because it's confusing. And like I said, he's great at run blocking, but pass protection is where his weakness is. And I'm no offensive lineman. I don't know anything about the game for that. So I'm trying to figure out what is the issue and why he can't do that.
Well, at my camps, I every now and then I share with the kids that have aspirations of going to college that the difference between the guys that play on Saturdays and the guys that play on Sundays is the guys that play on Sundays can pass protect better.
Okay. There you go.
Because obviously you got to protect the most expensive player on the field. But for me personally, and I've talked to Keena Turner and he says, come in and watch a little bit of film with Mike, But the problem is I live in LA. I commute from down here. For me personally, when I look at Mike, like you say, run out there in the open field and the runs, he's athletic enough. So that tells me he's got athletic ability. The thing with him is he's a little light taking on the power rush on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 14, when the whole stadium knows, your auntie knows, my mom knows that, hey, throw the ball. There's only 40 seconds left. So those kind of downs is where I think Mike has problems. So for me, how I would handle it, I know he's athletic enough. Don't back up so much to where you give the guy a running start. Take him on just a little bit earlier. And I'm talking about a foot or maybe 2 feet. Take him a little early, a foot to 2 feet. Because when you take off a little bit of that steam, it makes a big difference in pass protection. When people talk about football, game of inches, they're not just talking about, making the first down. I mean, game of inches applies to that game in a lot of different aspects. But that comes from film study. If like how I used to study film is when I played against a guy like Leon Lett, guy that's 6'7", God made us to sprint forward a whole lot stronger and faster than we are backing up, right? And I tell the kids that the minute I see one of you guys run your 40-yard dash faster going backwards, then I know we're in trouble.
It makes sense.
On third and long, those guys, not only are they great athletes, they're coming forward full steam. Our job and why we get paid is we need to be able to stop them for 4 to 5 seconds backing up, right? So how I used to handle situations, I used to live in the minds of the defensive line. When I study, I look at what they're trying to do. And that's something that I wish I could have the opportunity to study with Mike. Because if it's 1st and 10, right, and you're a defensive tackle, how are you going to play that down, 1st and 10? In your mind is they could run the ball. It's 50-50. They could run the ball or they could pass the ball, right? Now, if it's 2nd and 3, what's in your mind as a defensive tackle? And I'm trying to live off of their mind. They're going to run the ball. That's 2nd and 3. The percentages are they're going to run the ball. But if we throw the ball on 2nd and 3, when those guys try to stop the run, they're just not pinning their ears back and coming after us. They're trying to take up the gap. So they're not going to come full steam, right? So I set accordingly because I live in their minds. I hope I'm not getting too technical because they're trying to make you understand. So, but if it's 2nd and 4, they're going to think percentages are we're going to run the ball. So they're just not going to fly up the field, but now if it's 3rd and 12, what are they thinking? They're not going to run the ball. They're not going to run the ball. So it makes them pin their ears back and come after you. But when you take away by living in their minds on 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, when you take away that danger, if you throw the ball in those downs by jumping them short, now you cut the game in half. Now you take away their danger by 50%. And that's how I studied the film, right? That's how, because I was a 6'3" guy. I need to study the film to be able to compete out there against guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", that are coming forward while they're expecting me to back up. It's not the easiest job to do, and that's why offensive linemen are getting paid a lot of money now. But that's, for me, when it's what gets Mike in trouble is when it's 3rd and 12, it's the 4th quarter, we need to get a first down to get to field goal range. He's backing up, and that's why he gets pushed back.
Gotcha.
So for me, I would give him advice is take them on just a little bit shorter, because taking them up a little bit shorter buys you probably 2 seconds. And you add that 2 seconds to the 3 seconds that you usually do because you're an NFL player. Now that's 5 seconds. If you can protect the quarterback for 5 seconds, I guarantee you we're going to win at least 12 to 13 games.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't want to get too complicated, but that's kind of how we approach the game, and that we approach the different challenges. I thought Trent did a nice job against the defensive end Jones from Arizona. For the most part, if you remember, Jones had 5 sacks the very first game this year against Tennessee. So.
And he hasn't been seen since. He hasn't had a sack since that game, literally. I watched his numbers because I like to study them. I like to study all of our opponents and take a look at the statistics and how things worked out. But, yeah, he hadn't had a sack since then, and it looked like what he was doing was he would rotate over to McGlinchey because he knew he was going to have an easier time with him than he would with Trent Williams, because Trent, like you said, he's human. Everybody gets beat, but it's really hard to beat that guy. And what you said made sense, though. That's exactly how you're supposed to do it. And that actually reminds me of a couple of things that I've heard from several different defensive backs. I remember years ago when Darrelle Revis was playing, he had shut down Chad Johnson. And Chad said, "How did you shut me down?" He said, "I just studied the film." And he said, "I knew when you were getting the ball." He said, "How?" He said, "When you were getting the ball, you used to tug on your right glove twice." So that just something so small and minor and minute like that gives you the edge over that guy, because you're like, okay, I know how I got to play this technique because the ball's actually coming his way. But not that explanation was not too technical. It made perfect sense. And believe you me, man, if I know how it is, the players don't really watch, us YouTubers and stuff like that, because most of the time we unfortunately piss them off with our takes on things. But my buddy Mose says, "Hi, Mr. Sapolu. My question was who was the toughest defensive lineman you faced throughout your career, and who did you enjoy going to battle against?"
It's hard to enjoy going to battle against anybody in that league.
I know.
Yeah. But, Reggie White, I know he played at defensive end, but when he played for Buddy Ryan, you remember that Bear defense? They covered it. And then they bring the person that they bring into at nose was Reggie White. And and that makes it hard to double team him. So our offensive line coach would always say, You know, Jesse, you're from an island, so we're going to leave you an island on this one.
Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on. This is monumental right here, guys. It's Sapolo's Island before there was ever a Revis Island. Okay, there it is. That's it. That's it. Darrell, you got to take a back seat. Sapolo's Island before Revis Island. I love that.
And that is breaking news on the Shank
breaking
Club
news
NFL
right
channel.
there,
Breaking news.
It was Sapolo's Island before there was ever a Revis Island.
Sapolo's Island was always in our meeting room, right?
There you go.
It was never out in the open because we didn't have social media. We don't. You guys are exposed. You guys should be thankful because there's a lot of more, things that were never exposed out of that locker room that you guys find out about right now. For example, I don't want to bring this up too, but 3 weeks ago my phone started blowing up, right? Just to show you what the social media influence on the game. And I guess I got nominated for the semifinals for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there we go.
People were congratulating me, and I had no idea what they were congratulating me about. They just say congratulations. I'm like, so I Googled my name, and then I realized what it was. But even people now, they find out they got cut on social media before the team gets in contact with them. So
ridiculous, man. You go on Twitter and realize one, you don't have a job, or two, I didn't know this was gonna happen.
Yeah, that's the day and age we live in, So when people get shocked, including my kids, when they say, "Dad, when did you find out?" I said, "I found out when people were congratulating me on my phone."
Mostly it's me in your DMs, Jesse, trying to get you back on the show. That's why your phone blows up. That's me normally saying, get on. I want you back on.
And I appreciate
other people. I got there in the end. It took me a while, but I got there in the end. I'm going to bring in Izzy now, who is another big fan of yours. Didn't really want to come on camera and speak to you because, like everyone, we're all starstruck. But Izzy, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the last time you were on, you answered one of my questions from the chat, so I wanted to follow up on that. You talked about how you weren't a big fan of Joe Staley because he wasn't aggressive enough. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on Trent Williams and what he's been doing for us ever since he got here.
Trent is picking it up now. He's hitting his stride now. I thought the first 3 to 4 weeks when he came to us, I guess I knew he was a great player, but my expectation was I want you to step on the field and make a difference right now. But like I said, Trent is human, and he did not play the whole year before he came to us. He was off the whole year before he came to us. And something else that people need to understand, that you give this young man a lot of credit. He went through a cancer, episode. But man, right now, I think he's hitting his stride right now. The line that I played with, 4 of the 5 guys played in the Pro Bowl at some point in their career. This line, Trent is a Pro Bowler. I'm not sure if Mac ever went to the Pro Bowl, but if we can get 2 to 3 guys, just from the leadership standpoint of gaining that confidence in the huddle, if we can get that, I think we're taking a big step in the right direction. But going back to your question, I think Trent Williams is an upgrade for us right now.
Okay. My second question to you is, you played all over the offensive line, and I still think that's one of the coolest things in the world. What are your thoughts on someone like Brunskill, who had to play guard, tackle, center, and really didn't get a chance to master any of them, but is just gonna keep coming in and keep stepping up and trying his best at anything he's given?
Well, great question. The first choice would be to put him at one spot and let him get better at that one spot.
Mhm.
I think if Bruns would just dominate that one spot, the 49ers will leave him alone. You know, right now, when they switched me after Super Bowl 23, that was my second year starting the whole year at left guard. You know, so I've already established myself. I just didn't like the fact that they moved me at such a young age to center, but we had no choice. Our center retired, named Randy Cross. And then I loved playing center, you know, because we went on to dominate Denver the very next year, and then we were a fumble away from going to a three-peat. But anyways, my mindset at the time was to help the team in any way necessary. I just feel like for someone like Brunskill, I think it would help him if he just stay at one spot. Not that I don't think he's good enough to move around, but let him establish himself first. But at the same time, I'm not in those personnel meetings. He might be the best guy that we have to patch up those holes right now.
Callie has a question right now, if you don't mind answering it. It says, what does Mr. Sapolu think is the biggest problem with our offense, and can Kyle turn things around?
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. The guy that's a head coach with the Jets right now, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Right? He went from, we need to get rid of him 3 years ago to being a hot commodity, you know, Robert Saleh, 2 years ago, and now he's a head coach. Kyle Shanahan is one of the most innovative coaches out there, offensive mind. Now, do the stats show for it? Not necessarily right now, but I think what he did this past game, knowing Trey and his knowledge of the offense, we needed to run the ball as much as we can to shorten the game. You know, now, in my mind, I think if Kittle would have played, we would have won the game. Because Kittle is one of the best medium outlets that a quarterback can have. You know, for me, the only bad throw that Lance threw was, and I'm sure you guys watched the game, I wanted him to run with the ball. Was the very first throw that he had. The young man is excited. It's his first start. And that ball came out humming, and it went over the head of the receiver. But I thought he could have run for at least 15 yards. But that's us saying that. I said the same thing when he tried to run in from the 1 yard line, and jump, but easier said than done, and you're talking about milliseconds for him to make. Here's what I'm thinking when he ran on that 1 yard line, right? Oh, I'm going to run this guy over because I did it in college. Well, now he knows, he needs to jump to get that touchdown. But for me, I feel like, because I watched them practice. They came down to my area and practiced against the Chargers. Lance is very, very talented, but there's just certain things that was so quick for him in practice that I could see it from standing on the sideline. And that's the most positive thing I took away from the game. He never really looked lost in that game. Now, our receivers could have helped this young man, with a couple of drops that we had to get. We couldn't afford to drop those passes because we're playing an undefeated team and we're hurting a little bit. But I think we did as well as we could. I think the positive thing is that offense was so explosive from Arizona, but our defense held them down pretty well. 17 points, no explosive plays. I don't believe in moral victories, but I believe in, are we getting better considering some of the injuries that we have? And I don't want to talk injuries anymore because I'm kind of tired of talking about it. What we went through last year was a lot.
I think we're all sick of that, actually.
That's a really bad. That's a really bad word for any 49ers fan. Injuries. And can I just say, you've made Izzy's day because you brought up George Kittle, and she is a massive Kittle fan. So I'm sure she's got butterflies now because you mentioned her favorite player.
He's one of my favorite players.
He's a stud,
It's also an honor to be around an actual Niner legend because I'm from New Jersey, so the most I'm used to is the Sims family and Tiki Barber. So this really is an honor.
You from the Meadowlands?
Yes, I'm from North Jersey.
All right, we used to have some battles with Lawrence Taylor and those guys over there.
Oh, trust me, my father still hates the Niners to this day. He will root about anyone, maybe besides the Cowboys, against my team. He rooted for the Seahawks, the Ravens, the Chiefs, you name it. He hates the Niners and Joe Montana to this day.
Well, I appreciate you being faithful.
Can I ask you one last question? There's a lot of talk about Jalen Moore and Aaron Banks and them not coming in or not being ready. And as someone who was a young offensive line or someone who had to move because of injuries, what would your advice be to the faithful concerning them and their development?
Well, we're hoping they develop, because they were draft choices. We're hoping they develop. And some have developed. When you go back to history of the NFL, there's certain linemen that get better, and they become solid starters in the National Football League. But then, reality is we're going to miss on some of them. We're going to miss on some of them. And we have missed on some offensive linemen over the last 10 years. That young man that came from SC. But then again, you're going to hit some. Like George Kittle's a 5th-round draft choice, right? When I got interviewed for my nomination, I said I didn't play because my number one priority was to go to the Hall of Fame. I played because I wanted to prove to people that I was better than being an 11th-round draft choice. That's what my mindset was at the time. And that chip on my shoulder stayed there my whole 15-year career. And so did the 49ers hit in the 11th round that year? Maybe. But the reality is, going back to your question, we hope those young men work out. But there's a possibility that we may miss on them. And it won't be the first miss that we have, and it won't be the first miss any team, will experience. But we're going to have some surprises, I think Debo is performing better than a 2nd-round draft choice. I think Kittle is another hit. During my time, we had a 5th round that had guys like Charles Haley, Steve Wallace, Michael Carter. They all became Pro Bowler, and they all came in the 5th round. John Taylor was a 3rd-round draft choice. The guy that's considered the winningest Super Bowl quarterback was a 6th-rounder that's now with Tampa Bay. So that's just the process. I know. I don't know. We have a Polynesian kid that I talk to, I text with him all the time. That's our 5th-round draft choice, Talanoa Hufanga, that I encourage to.
I love that kid. I really do.
I think, has Jesse frozen, or is it
Yeah, he
me?
froze. Yeah, he froze because we couldn't hear him.
Jesse, if you can hear us, you've frozen. I've got the main man from Nothing But Niners, or one of the main men, Mike, has come in. And just at the time that Mike comes in, Jesse freezes. Mike,
What you doing, Mike? Man, you got the man frozen, bro. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, look, try dropping me out. Maybe it's a bandwidth issue. Drop me back out and see if he works again. Put me back in the background and see if he works.
Oh,
crap.
Dropped. Hopefully he'll make it back in. Like getting him on the show is like getting you on the show, Mike. You are both elusive as hell.
Listen, I'm always, anytime that I'm not working or on the show, I'm doing, like, I got a car full of kids right now. My wife is in the store. Like, I don't stop. And so it's hard for me to, make appearances. A lot of times when I'm on other people's shows, I'm outside, you know what I mean? Like with the kids in the background, because it's just not enough hours in the day. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate the offer.
Jersey.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Jersey for you.
And so, I appreciate the offer and trying to get me on. I wanted to ask one question to him. And I don't know, maybe you guys asked it already because I was in and out of reception. But if you guys did, let me know. I wanted to ask him, transitioning from your typical pocket passer to someone who moves around a little bit more, like the Joe Montana to Steve Young transition, and how that's going to relate to. Oh, you did ask that question, and because we saw a lot more holding penalties, and I think it was because we went from the prototypical, pocket guy to Trey, who has a little bit more mobility, and all of a sudden those holding issues go up through the roof. I don't think that was a coincidence, and I wanted to ask him about the transition there and how long that took.
Yeah, he was saying that it wasn't an easy transition. Like it wasn't anything simple. Like it took them a little bit of time to get used to that. And he said that honestly, they used to yell at Steve Young in the huddle and kind of get on him like, hey, stay in the pocket a little bit longer, man. Like we got you. Trust your line, and we'll take care of you. So yeah, he said it was that's not an easy transition, and it wasn't a walk in the park there. So yeah, we asked that because I felt the same way, but it was just like, yeah, we had to.
You're muted.
I heard from Jesse, and he is trying to get back on.
Okay.
I think someone needs to put 50 cents in the meter at his house.
50 cent meter. Ain't no meter 50 cent, man. That's only gonna get you like 5 minutes.
He is trying to get back on, so hopefully he will hop back on. But it was interesting what you said, Mike, about it, and he was saying that obviously Joe went down and Steve came in, and that offensive line had been together that long that they basically coached Steve Young up, and they kind of saw the traits that he was doing, and they adjusted to it on the fly. And it did take a while, but it wasn't as hard as you think it would be, which if you put into context now why it was so hard for our line last week to take what happened with Trey. Now, obviously, as you know, I'm an avid viewer of your channel, Nothing But Niners. And I was having this conversation with Dion on Wednesday night saying I didn't think all of those times when Trey pulled the ball down and run wasn't a play call that Kyle called. It was him not seeing separation from receivers. Hang on, bring Jesse back in. Sorry, Jesse, well done. You've obviously got your daughter to sort your internet out again, because I know last time you didn't have any volume on your microphone, and she had to step in and help you out. So hopefully she sorted it out. I'm going to give the floor to Mike from Nothing But Niners, who is a great supporter of all things Niners and also of yours. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let Mike ask you some questions that I know you're going to have some answers to. So, Mike, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. And Jesse's great to talk to you again, man. Good seeing you. I know we ran into you over at the stadium a couple years ago, but that was our only time interacting in person. Melissa and Dion, they told me that they asked you the question already about transitioning from Montana to Young, and they said that you guys were kind of able to pull him to the side and coach him up. And I wanted to ask you, is that a different dynamic when you have a quarterback who they traded up for? Are they going to let the veteran linemen say, tell him what to do, or is this going to be different now, where the coaches are telling the linemen what to do, as opposed to like the cohesion on the field?
Well, it's a combination of both, Mike. I think the coaches are still going to coach Lance up, but when you have a veteran line, it's not a problem for us to talk to Trey a little bit, or like we did with Steve. I know everybody looks at Steve as a Hall of Famer right now, but when Steve first walked in that huddle, he's coming off the bench after 2.5, 3 years sitting on it. So, but we had no problems talking to Steve, making some adjustments. There's some adjustments that happens on the field that from a field standpoint, that the coaches and the X's and O's and all that stuff it's a little bit different. So things like that, like with Steve, when we can we can sense when Steve is looking to run first instead of going through the progression. We sense it, and when we sense it, we tell him on the sideline, trust us, stay in there a little bit longer, go through your progression, because that's what make our offense go. Let your legs be a bonus. Don't let your legs be the feature of our offense, because if that's the case, the defense will adjust to it and make us one-dimensional.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, and that's what they were saying. You said, all right, I appreciate that. That's good insight there, and hopefully they do that. I mean, my other question to you is, and again, if they asked this already, I apologize. How do you get worked in behind that veteran offensive line if you're not the starter?
Well, it's difficult, but your job as a backup is you have to think like a starter when you come in. You have to force yourself to think that way. People always joke around that the backup spot is the best job in the NFL because you're still getting your check and you're not getting hit. And yet, when you come into the game, the initial reaction to you is a lot of people cheer you on, because the reason you come in is either the starter's struggling or the starter got hurt. But like anything else, the more you play, the longer you play, the more you're going to get exposed. For example, like Seattle, their great quarterback got hurt. And when Geno Smith came in and started hitting about 3-4 passes in a row, the Seattle fans got excited. Oh, we're not as bad. We're in good shape. Well, we'll find that out this week. We will find that out this week when it's down in and down out. And now the defensive line is coming at you with different looks, because when Geno came in, they probably did not prepare for his weaknesses, but that's just how it is. If you're going to make $3 to $4 million sitting on the bench, when you come in, you better be good. That's the expectation. At least that was the expectation with us. People say we were lucky we had a Hall of Fame quarterback sitting on the bench, but it took some work. It didn't automatically just became the Steve Young that gave us our 5th Super Bowl.
And then I'm just going to ask one more thing here. This is my bias coming out. All right. I'm from New Jersey. I'm in Pennsylvania now, but Mike McGlinchey is from Pennsylvania, and the faithful's been killing him, man. I think he's been having a much better year. He did have some issues in the last game, but just your overall assessment on the young tackle and Mike McGlinchey.
Well, we talked about it. Mike is athletic as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know if you're athletic when you pull out in the open field and you're able to adjust and block DBs and things like that. I think where Mike is on the spot is when the game is on the line, he seems to break down in third and long situations. So we shared a little bit of my thought process on how I used to attack certain opponents. I used to do it with down and distance. The problem with, I think Mike has problems with, is that when he's 3rd and 17 and we need, or 3rd and 12, let's say 3rd and 12, You know, we need to get to field goal range and we need to get the drive going. You need to protect, you know, at 3rd and 12, at least 4 to 5, maybe 6 seconds. And those are the situations where I think Mike broke down enough that the fans are starting to notice. And what I suggested earlier was, you know, film study. Don't back up so much, you know. Don't back up so much. If you look at the way Trent is built and the way Mike is built, Mike is more long, you know, but it's a little bit smaller on the lower half, you know, and that can leave you vulnerable when it's 3rd and 12 and that defensive end is coming. By the time they get to you, is they're in their 4th or 5th step, you know, and you know when you watch the 100-yard dash, you know when Usain Bolt is on his 5th and 6th step, he's pretty much, you know, getting going. So, you know, take them on at their 3rd step, because that might take away 15 to 20% of that steam. And when you do that, that's taking away that 20% of that steam doesn't seem like much, but it gives us an extra 2 seconds of time to throw the ball. So it's film study, it's knowing how to attack your opponent, because Mike is long enough. It's just, you know, we've seen, and if the fans see it, then you know we see it, you know, that on 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9, in key situations, he seems to break down a little bit.
All right, Nick, back to you, man. I'm all done. Thanks, Jesse. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, you, Big Mike. Thank you.
Nice one, Mike. Got a question here for you, Jesse. What is your take on the Brandon Ayuk situation? Do you believe he's in Kyle's doghouse? And is that a smart decision by Kyle?
Well, there's a little bit of mixed messages coming out. You know, I'm not there every day. I hear that he works hard, so that's, to me, that's the biggest plus. But he's also has some nagging injuries, you know. But I think if I go back to his rookie year and saw how hard he played when he was healthy, that gives me the hope that Brandon could be a 1-2 punch with Debo. Shoots. We're still trying to figure out the big receiver that we got in the same draft as Debo. The young man that I hear has got a big upside. Well, you know, it's hard to judge when we don't see him on the field. I think the wide receiver that we got about 6'5". So with Brandon, I'm sure those issues happened when I played, but we didn't have social media for all that news to leak through. You know, I laugh about it right now because you know, when I played and you made the injury list, you know, it was just a newspaper with a little bit of transactions, you know, so you can read it. And a lot of people don't read it. Now, man, somebody gets a scratch and they're in there. We know all the injuries. I don't know if they do that because of fantasy football and things like that, but yeah, it's different. It's different times. I think, from what I know of Brandon Ayuk, he played for some NFL coaches at Arizona State. He had a great first year. He's probably going through some nagging injuries, but the most encouraging thing that I hear is that he works hard in practice. You know, and obviously, if there's another receiver that's healthy that also practices hard, and Brandon's not out on the field, then that becomes a discussion to all the fans and of course us.
I've got an interesting question, actually, and it's just come into my head. You talked about social media. Going back to your playing days and all of the players you played with, I mean, do you think Bill Walsh would have been on Twitter? Do you think, and I know obviously Joe is now on Twitter, and let's say fast forward to now and you're still playing, how do you think the players that you played with, and let's say I know Steve's on it as well. How would have people perceived things that people say on Twitter now if they got Twitter? How would you? And you see it because you're on Twitter, I know. But how do you think some of the people you played with would have perceived what goes on now with Twitter? Because obviously Trey Lance is on there, George Kittle's on there. All the players now have social media accounts. How would it have affected you, or how would you have read it back then when you were playing?
It wouldn't have been positive. And from the standpoint of, Bill did not allow, and towards I think my last four years, we had flip phones, but still, when we had flip phones, Bill did not allow us to have any phones in the locker room. That's how strict that locker room was. But I cherish the fact that we were able to focus, year in and year out. People ask me questions right now. My 15 years with the Niners, the worst record we ever had was 10-6. I mean, think about that. 15 years, 10-6. Now, I won the Super Bowl going 10-6, but I also, the one time I missed the playoffs, we were 10-6, but we lost every tiebreaker there was, and people were just cheering for the Niners not to make the Super Bowl the playoffs that year. So it's amazing what a mindset can do for a human being, because that was our mindset. Anything less than 10 wins was just a total flop of our season, And I won the Super Bowl going 15-1, 17-2. But then the year that I remember the most is the year we started off, 6-5. So when I text Talanoa Ufanga, I remind him that that's the Super Bowl that's most dear in my heart, is the one that we started off 6-5, because even though we didn't have social media at the time, there was a lot of noise. The Bill Walsh era is coming to an end, all that stuff, right? And amazing what was behind that adversity. Not only did we run the table and went to Chicago and beat up that defense in 28-10 and 31 below zero windshield factor, and we're supposed to be Californians that were soft, we went over there and got it done. And not only did we ran the table that year, we had one of the most dominating years the following year in the history of the NFL, where we went 17-2. And the most lopsided Super Bowl in history. So I text Talanoa Ufanga. My thing is I need to be encouraging to these players. So I texted him and I shared with him the year we went on to the Super Bowl, and it's only been 5 games. Just stay in the moment and take it one game at a time. And when you look at Arizona, they just signed that tight end from Philadelphia. So
Zach Ertz.
Yeah, right. So it tells me that they're taking their shot right now, because trust me, in 2 years, they will be strapped with the salary cap, because not only Hopkins was a great sign for them, but they also added J.J. Watt. They redid Jones's contract. Now they've added, Ertz and everybody else. Where's the room for their salary cap? So good for them. They're taking their shot at the Super Bowl right now, but nothing's guaranteed in life. But for me, I think we can win 10 games. And it's a 17-game season. So how does that affect the 10 games? I think it gives you more of a chance to get in with 17 games. So, but the best thing for my approach, from my experience, is just stay in the moment and just focus on one game at a time. Don't look forward, forget about the past and move forward. But don't look too far down the line, because we need to win one game at a time the best way we can.
Do you, as players, only, and I know, again, outside noise coming in, etc., is it literally when you're there and you're playing for the team, it's one game at a time, and you have, you that's all you think about is just the next game. You forget what happened in the previous game, win or lose, and you move forward. And it's like, okay, so we lost last week. Not that you lost a lot, obviously, because you were part of the best franchise in history and winning all those Super Bowls. But is it literally, okay, so that's happened in this game, 24 hours, let's move on to the next and let's focus? Or does anything ever linger at all?
Oh, it definitely. It lingers for 24 hours after the game. And it's a fight from within to not let it linger 48 hours, but it's a conscious effort to mourn over the loss, get angry about it, and then just cut it off and focus, within 24 to 48 hours. You cannot let it linger, or else it's such a long season, It's like a 17-round fight, man. And if you can win 3/4 of those rounds, I think you're going to be in the tournament. But it's what made some of those Niner teams successful is everybody bought into that fact of staying in the moment and take it one game at a time, and it was easy to protect us in the locker room because it's easy not to read the newspaper, Now it's so much tougher now because, on your way home, driving after practice, you look at social media and somebody's saying something bad about you or something negative that can hurt your confidence. So it's even more important now than ever before to stay together, and that's my part when I talk to the guys when I go up, it's just give them some experience, that give them some positive feedback as far as what a season is.
Interesting. So when you go up to Levi's, obviously part of the former teams, etc., does it, I know it's not Candlestick, but does it feel like you're going home still?
I feel like if we played in that, baby, we'll be sitting here with 7 to 8 Super Bowls, man. That's how nice that stadium is.
That's really good. That's really interesting because obviously you played at the Stick.
No, the Stick is where my heart is. But if you look at the history of doing my generation, we still hold a record. I mean, think about this. We still hold a record of 18 straight road wins in over 2 years. We won 18 straight road wins, and then we lost on the last second field goal in New York at the Meadowlands on a Monday night. So the thing about Candlestick is this, and people don't know this. That field can get real muddy because it's sitting on the ocean, And if you know any of the, all of our faithfuls that are familiar with the 49ers, Bill Walsh built the 49ers to be like a Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard type of a team that's quick, a team that's athletic, and a team that will beat you with athletic ability. We weren't the grind out 330, 340 pound lineman type of a team. And when we played the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s, when they built their team, it was a battle of two different systems. One was quick and athletic. The other just try to grind you down with big linemen and run Emmitt Smith.
I don't know if when you mentioned that last-minute field goal at the Meadowlands, Izzy went, oh, she wasn't very pleased about that. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm just going to go around the table again because I know time is precious, and I really appreciate you. Can't believe how appreciative I am of you coming on and spending time with us. My last question before I go around the horn with some more questions: did Bill Walsh ever lose his shit? Because he seemed very calm, very collected, very like your dad. You know, when you see all these old vintage clips and they show him in the locker room and he's showing plays and he's doing this and doing that. Some of these people that are on the head coaches that are now on the sideline, you can imagine they go in there at half time and lose it and rant and rave and throw things. Was Bill Walsh always calm and collected, or did you ever see him lose it and give it to someone?
I don't know if did you guys see the special that the NFL Films did on Bill Walsh before he passed?
Yeah, I watched it.
You watched it?
Yeah.
And how he says that, to your question, Bill Walsh lost it a lot in that locker room. In the locker room, and I did a film. They filmed some of us for videos during his funeral that they showed at Candlestick, and I said in an interview that Bill Walsh, when you see him strolling the sideline, your mother will be like, "Oh, I want my son to play for that man. He has that silver hair, soft features, and he would take care of my son." Nothing could be further from the truth behind closed doors. and then in that special that they did on Bill, he was so hard on us, very demanding. And at some point, you asked, would Bill Walsh be on Twitter? Bill Walsh would be perfect on Twitter because Bill Walsh will send out mixed messages about a certain player that will make you think, oh, shoot, I'm going to get cut next week. He was a genius in playing mind games with us. And if you look at that special that they filmed, he said his number one regret was not showing the men that he coached that he loved them. If you really look at that interview. And then they had me on, and I said, Bill was so hard on me that when I retired, I went to play golf and I came home and my wife says, oh, coach called. I was already removed from the game a couple of years. And I said, Coach who? My wife said, Coach Walsh called. I said, what did he say? And she says, he called to let you know that he loves you. He loves you. I had to sit down. And I'm not a crier, but I was a little teary-eyed, because that's how hard he was on us. That's how hard he was on us. But at the same time, at his funeral, we all, to a man, said there will not be one Super Bowl trophy sitting in San Francisco if it wasn't for that man. He did what it was necessary for us to become champions. He was demanding. It was painful at times. At the time that we were the dynasty team, we had some celebrities that come through the locker room. There were times when Bill went off, those celebrities took off. They took off running outside that locker room. But it's what was necessary for us to become champions. So to your question, Bill Walsh was one of the most demanding coaches I ever played for. In fact, the most demanding. Because when I played for him, it's about earning your livelihood. You either do the job or else your kids will not eat the kind of food that you can buy them. So that was the way I approached the game. That was the way Coach Walsh approached the game. And we're sitting here with 5 Super Bowl trophies because his influence on George Seifert was strong too. George Seifert was with him all those years, and we kept the system the same. And we're thankful of the late Coach Walsh for setting that standard that brought 5 trophies to San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, him, Carmen Policy, and obviously
John McVay. McVay.
Definitely.
It's funny because Sean McVay used to play around with my 2 boys in the locker room.
Really?
So Sean McVay grew up in the 49er locker room. because his grandfather was John McVay. So he was too young for me to talk to. I talked to his dad, Tim McVay, when he comes in the locker room. Kyle Shanahan was a ball boy, my last 3 years with the Niners, because his dad was the one that coordinated Steve throwing 6 touchdown passes against the San Diego Chargers. So there's a connection there. But it's amazing the tree that Bill Walsh had all those years with Mike Holmgren that went on and took a Super Bowl trophy from us. Pete Carroll, and how Bill helped him out. So we got a great history. We just got to continue to build and get that number 6, man.
That's the thing. And I'm going to move on to Izzy and then Dion in a second, then I'll let you go. A lot of the fans do live in the past. I'm one of them. And I mean, I've been a fan since 79. And it's interesting what you said about Bill, etc., because obviously we never saw that side of him. We saw the gentleman, and he was he came across as, and I know obviously behind the locker room doors things are different. But the thing that always struck me about him, he was very humble did he not accept, that's the wrong thing to say, but did he know he was as great as he was for this team, for the NFL, for the West Coast? Did he grasp that, or was it still being the person he was like, well, it's not actually. Do you see what I'm saying? Did he accept his greatness?
Well, I don't think Bill ever showed us as players, even after he won some Super Bowls, that he knew he was a pretty top of the line coach. Never really showed it. He was more. Bill was so hard on us behind closed doors, but he also had a sense of humor, at the most unexpected time. So that's how we knew everything he did was calculated. He kind of knew how to motivate the team. He kind of knew how to pull back, but he also knew how to be hard on us. But I think the greatness of Bill Walsh is, the minority coaching program that the NFL adopted. That was Bill Walsh's program. Because when I came to the Niners, they brought in some minority coaches to be interns at that time. This is the early 80s. And we had Tony Dungy, Dennis Green, we had Tyrone Whittingham, we had Marvin Lewis. I know all those coaches. And the reason I know them is because Bill Walsh would bring them into training camp, And then all of a sudden, some of those coaches became coaches for the Niners, and they went on to have careers elsewhere. But he started that minority coaching program that the NFL has implemented now. So that, to me, that's the great legacy of Bill. Not only was he a genius coaching the game, but he was far beyond his time as far as his vision. So those are the things that we'll always remember about Coach.
Couple of comments here. Mark Anderson, not many people that you can call a legend, but Walsh is one of them, and I think we all agree with that. And Carly says, Bill Walsh is the greatest coach I've ever had the privilege to watch. In my humble opinion, so much of his influence can be seen, used throughout the league today, and that's very, very true. Right, Izzy.
Can you pull up Moses' question from earlier about Shanahan and Lynch? Is that still possible? Nick?
I have to unmute myself. I should know this. I've only been doing this show. Almost. Yeah, sorry. If I missed it, Izzy, if you can find it, yeah, please answer it.
I can't see it on my phone. Sorry.
I'll say that. I'll say it. Yeah, what his question is. He says, "What do you think the mindset? What do you think the mindset John and Kyle have for this team? Is it conducive for winning consistently?"
Well, that remains to be seen, But I think John Lynch is as solid of a communicator between the fan base and the team as we've ever had in some time. If you remember some of the controversies that surrounded Balky and the relationship between the faithfuls. So we have the tendency to just forget about where we were to where we are now. I remember our run a couple seasons ago before COVID. That was as good of a run as we've had. Since we've had a good run too with Jim Harbaugh. But what I look for is, even though we lost last week, there were some positives, man. There were some positives, because I remember there was a time about 10 years ago, even before Harbaugh, that we were out of games after the first 10 minutes of a game. we will be down 17-0. And for me, there was just nothing positive about that. I was hurting so much watching an organization that I played my whole career with, that we helped, put Super Bowl trophies out there. To be down 17 after a quarter and a half, week in and week out, no competitiveness. That's what hurts me more than anything else. For me, it's hard to compare people doing it when you compare it to my generation, to our generation. But if you're competitive and you're out there competing, being undermanned, I'm good with that, because I think I see something that we can build with. Now, like we talked about, we hate talking about injuries, because other teams have injuries too now, but nobody has certain injuries like all key guys, like Kittle. This is 2 years in a row he's getting hurt. And he's not because he's not a tough guy. He was already nicked up a little bit, and then he took a hit in a Seattle game. I'm surprised he didn't blow his knee.
Yeah, that was what we like to call a hospital ball from Jimmy. He put it so high in the air, but the way that he came down, I was amazed that Kittle came back in the game.
I'm thankful that he's going to come back, but yeah, you're right. Because when I saw that play, I'm like, oh my Lord. But and then Jimmy staying healthy. I know we want a Tom Brady back there. We want, but for me, there's only a handful of those kind of guys. But I think if we play our cards right for now, I think Jimmy can take us where he took us the last time, and maybe, we had a 10-point lead. I wish I could say, okay, let's replay that season. Let's go back to when we had a 10-point lead with 10 minutes to go and play it different from there. But that's just not how life is. So I played 15 years. We won 4. So that means we missed on the other 11.
That must have been
that's
tough.
just the process.
That must have been tough, winning 4 and missing out on 11.
Can I ask you one last question for myself, if you don't mind?
Yes,
of course.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, Pierre Garçon was a part of the football team and then came here, and he brought that tough mentality about flipping the switch, and he still has an impact on Kittle and getting the balls for young rookies and bringing that kind of physicality to the field. Did anyone shock you in your day when you played that just would flip the switch when they came onto the field and they would be completely different?
Yeah, a lot of players on my team kind of had that laid back, off the field mentality, and then you just automatically flip the switch when you step on the field. If you look at, and I'm going to bring him up again, and there's no disrespect to the rest of the other players, because a lot of you don't see what we go through behind closed doors just to make it out there and play. But, you heard the story about Ronnie Lott cutting his little pinky off, and Ronnie epitomizes not only himself, but there's a lot of other guys that sacrifice, just like Ronnie did for us to win those championships and consistently win 10 games year in and year out. We talked about, and those guys deserve it because they play high profile positions. You hear about Jerry Rice just running people to the ground during his offseason training. But there's a lot of other Niners too that train their butts off, different position, to make sure that our team and the product that we put out there is something that you guys will be proud of. But if you say if there's a player, well, it's crazy now, but for Ronnie to snip a little bit part of his finger so he can come out there and finish the game, that's the mentality that we had as a team at that time. And I feel like the competition that we played at that time, it was so much tougher than it is now as far as the quality of the teams. I mean, you look at the Lawrence Taylor's, that 85 Bears defense is still considered the very best defense ever put together. Well, that same personnel was there in 87, 86, and 84. But the team that took it away from that defense was the San Francisco 49ers. If it wasn't for us, the Bears would probably be celebrating 3 Super Bowl titles. But my point is the competition was there. The depth of the league was there. And for us to become the team of that generation, those kind of sacrifices need to be taken, like your question. We did some crazy things to sacrifice for that football team. And that's something that when I sit back and think about, it's not necessarily just the 4 rings that I'm proud of. It's the sacrifice that we did for one another. Because the game of football teaches you a lot about life. And sometimes I'm so hard on my kids when they come home with injuries. But that's just the way my mindset was developed as a San Francisco 49er.
Thank you. This has been an absolute privilege talking to you.
It's an honor talking to you guys that invest emotionally with your favorite team, and without you guys, the game would not be the same, and that is the honest truth. I know sometimes we don't want to be bothered because the free time that we have, we want for ourselves, but we know, no doubt, and it was proven last year without fans, just the game was just not the same. So we appreciate you guys being faithful and keep the faith. And I think we're not too far from going back to where we were 2 years ago and take a shot at another ring.
I had one last question. So what? Just a little something. I grew up, in LA. That's where I was born and raised. And I kid you not, where I lived, there was like a strong. There was a lot of people there that were Polynesian. We had people from Samoa. We had people from different places, man. And the cool thing I can say is, like, I love that community because they're so family oriented and they're very welcoming. Like, I went to high school, one of my guys, this dude was built like a defensive lineman. He was playing quarterback, and it's the way that you guys like hold it down and hold it together, and you guys, stick together. I wish I had that, what I'm saying, in our community as much as we should. But my question really is, I watched A Football Life on Eddie DeBartolo, and that guy, from what they depicted in the film, was first class, year in and year out. But he didn't BS you. If I'm going to do these things, in return, I need you to get me some wins. How did you feel about Eddie? Because Jerry Rice, said he'll always be one of Eddie D's boys. Like, he said this guy knew your family, he knew your kids, he knew birthdays. Like, they depicted him as such. Like, what was he like, man? Because I loved him as an owner, and I thought to myself, like, that's the prototype of an owner that you want to be. I like guys like that because, like, for me, honestly, I don't really care for Jerry Jones. I feel like he likes to hug the spotlight a little too much, you know, and it's like you kind of need to be in the shadows. But with Eddie, the vision I have of him is such an amazing human being. How was that to play for a guy like that?
Eddie's still part of our lives right now. And but you know, like we spoke about, you know, and Nick was talking about Bill Walsh. He looks so calm and stuff, right? Eddie took care of us first class, no question about it. But you hit it right on the mark. He expected you to win, you know, and sometimes, man, it's tough to play under that kind of pressure. You know, because there'll be linemen that plays for the Atlanta Falcons that go home every December, and they get their check, but they're without any pressure, right? They expected to miss the playoffs. But again, it developed who I am as a man and how I raise my family and how I raise my kids. Not being afraid to put your pride on the line and not being afraid that there's a possibility your heart will be broken. And when you live your life that way, you're going to be successful because you're not scared to get your heart broken to accomplish what you want. And I've had my heart broken many times. So when people ask me, you know, Jesse, how many rings do you have? And I don't know if how I come across is not very, in their eyes, I'm not grateful because I'm sad when I say 4, you know, because the 4 that stays with me is the 4 NFC championship games that I lost. Because I'm laying my head on my pillow thinking, man, I could be here with 6 rings. You know, doggone it, I could be here with 6 rings. But that's just the mindset of the standard that Eddie set for all of us. Never settle, never be satisfied. But he took care of us. He'd send flowers every holidays to our wives. When I took my mother to Youngstown, when we did a ring ceremony over there, he was so happy that I brought my mother, you know, because my wife was pregnant at the time. He spent most of the time with my mom, just you know, giving her a history of Youngstown, Ohio, and you know, and my mom at that time was, you know, in her late 60s, and we were, you know, Eddie was younger at the time, but for him to take his time to welcome my mother, it shows a lot of who he is and what kind of a family person he is. And Jerry hit it right on the mark. We'll always be Eddie's guys. We'll never forget what he did for us. And when he comes to San Francisco, you know, until we get another ring, he's Mr. 49ers in the eyes of the faithfuls, even though a lot of them weren't even born when he owned the team. But those 5 trophies is
the thing that stands out to me about Eddie D is what he did for Dwight Clark and how he's done what he's done for him. And any program you watch that is Niner related and Eddie D comes up. And as you say, and I know they use that statement now in the NFL, football is family, but to him, it was. And to him, it meant everything. But as you said, you had to be a winner, and he wanted winners, and he got winners. And yeah, I mean, the thing about Dwight and the you know, where he's buried, and it's where the catch took place in a field, and you've got the original candlestick goal. I mean, that to me says everything about the man he was. And we in this day and age have bashed Jed York and the York family. And I know Jed's trying very, very hard to bring back those years. And I think he's desperate for those good times to return because he wants to make his uncle proud. And that is the kind of thing that's burning away at him. And good things are definitely coming for this. They are. good things are, you know, we've been close a few times in recent years, but I honestly believe that good times are coming. I have two very quick points, Jesse, before I let you go. Firstly, and I want you to finish off with the famous John Candy story, because I love you telling that whenever you tell it. And you've told it every time you've been on here. But my last thing is, how easy was it for you to remain a Niner throughout those years? Because obviously you get a lot of players that go for money and you know, better contracts and this, that, and the other. Was it easy for you to stay a Niner throughout all of that time?
Yeah, it was pretty easy because we, you know, I felt like I was part of developing that standard, you know, and it would be so difficult for me to go somewhere else where the standard is not the same. I might have gotten more money, but obviously I wouldn't be happy if we're not winning. So from that standpoint, it's pretty easy. But it's so funny. The year I came off of my heart surgery after my 14th season, and the Niners released me because they were afraid. They've never had anybody, you know, come and play after they had their chest open. You know, the Dallas Cowboys contacted me. And I could have been angry and go there. But when I sat down and I thought about my kids go to school, and of course they go at it with kids that are fans of the Cowboys and other teams, it wasn't worth me going away for 1 year or 2 years because my kids are 49er fans from the get-go. I know why Dallas wanted me to come there. I think they wanted to pick my brain because the center makes the calls for the West Coast offense, you know, and I wasn't going to do that. It just wasn't worth. But the funny thing about it is the kid that after I released that they chose to take my spot, you know, had a vertebrae problem with his neck. And then they brought me back for my 15th year. You know, when I was playing golf, I had to go to the YMCA and put a towel over my chest just to see if my chest was ready to take a hit. So, but you know, it was nice to come back and finish my career as a Niner. But you know, the John Candy story.
You never went to the Cowboys because,
you know,
son, don't let your children grow up to be a cowboy, as the famous song says. Very quickly, yeah. I've just got to bring in Ryan, Jesse, before, because his internet has been in and out, and I know he wants to ask you something. So just bear with us for a second. Ryan, I know your internet has been a bit crazy, but the floor is yours with Jesse. Go ahead.
My internet was in and out. I'm in Kent County, all the way down south of New Jersey. And I just got on the parkway going home, so I figured I'd ask you one good question. And it's truly an honor to be on here with you, Jesse. Truly an honor. It really is. As you were on there earlier, I started crying. It was truly an honor to see you on here. It really is. And when I grew up in the 80s, man, I tell you, I grew up in the 80s in Montana, a young era, and you guys were on fire. You guys were. So, in that take, I thank you very much for having me and ask you a question. Now, from 5 to 1, what are your top 5 plays in history with the 49ers? If you have time for that.
Top 5? Wow, that's so
yeah,
many.
from five to 1. If you can name them. If you can't name them, don't worry about it. It's okay. I just figured I'd ask you that.
Well, you know, obviously the catch happened when I was in college. You know, there's 6 49ers with 4, and that's a trivia question. I'm the only guy that got the second 4. You know, the other 5 guys were part of the first 4. So I wasn't there for the catch, but obviously the catch is probably, the play that kind of started the 49er dynasty from the belief standpoint of we can win it all. But I don't know if you guys remember the Rams were good in 1989. They were the second best team in the NFL. We happened to be in the same division, but we played them on the Monday Night Football game here, and they handed us our behind for the first 2.5 quarters. They were up by 17 points with 6 minutes to go, and we exploded for 21 points. And 2 of those touchdowns, John Taylor took 2 90-something yarders against the Rams on the Monday night. And the Ram fans were celebrating for 3 quarters, and to see their heart broken was, and the fact that I live in LA also, so it was funny back then when people used to chant, "Beat LA." I'm like, yeah, beat LA, even though I live in LA. But those were some good times. Some other play, obviously, the John Taylor touchdown when we drove the ball to beat Cincinnati with the John Candy story and all of that. We played in the Meadowlands, believe it or not, and we were losing with 20 seconds to go, and Joe hit Jerry Rice for 80 yards on the sideline and won the game. So that's another memorable play with Jerry. The other memorable plays for me, we were just dominating games. I mean, it wasn't much fun because we already knew we were going to win the game. Everybody talks about Steve throwing 6 touchdown passes in Super Bowl 29, but Steve played almost the whole 4 quarters. Joe threw 5 in 2 3/4. Joe threw his 5th touchdown in Super Bowl 24, and there was still 10 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. So we didn't know anybody was going to come close to that record. I wish we did, because we should have left him in there, so he can throw maybe, 6, 7, or 8. But that's how dominating that offense was, against Elway and the Broncos. So a lot of great plays. I don't know if you also remember, we played a regular season in Cincinnati, and there were 2 seconds left, and Joe hit Jerry Rice when Cincinnati was already celebrating to take the game away from them in the very last play of the game. So some great memories.
Yeah. Thank you very much for answering that question. Thank you very much, Jesse. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
One last thing, Jesse,
Thank you.
before I let you go. You've got to talk about the John. Honestly, I love hearing this story, and you probably get bored telling it. But the game is on a knife edge. Everyone is thinking, God, what's going to happen now? TV timeout. Take up the story from there. We're down. We've got to do something. The Niners are in a hole. You're all kind of apprehensive. I know us as fans should never doubt the GOAT. Just like the GOAT, apparently, Tom Brady, with a little time left. But those days were different. So, it's a TV timeout. Tell the story. I love this story. Tell me the story of that play.
It's funny because when it comes to Super Bowl history, the 49ers gave up more touchdowns on kickoff returns than any other organization. We gave up a touchdown against San Diego on the kickoff. We gave up a touchdown when we played Baltimore. Remember that? So we played Cincinnati, and we just took the lead with about 2 minutes and 50-something seconds left. And we kicked it back to a guy named Jennings, and he took it all the way back for a touchdown. So they kicked back to us, and we returned the ball, and it was on the 6-yard line. then we ran a play and we got a first down. We ran a play and we got a first down, and we called a timeout. So when Joe went out for the timeout, came back after the timeout, and we thought we were about to run the play, and the referee yells at me and said, "Jess, it's TV timeout, so now we got to stay there extra long." And during that TV timeout, as Joe was kneeling down in the huddle, he looked through in between the players, and he pointed out John Candy. He asked Harris Barton, "Hey, we call him H. Hey, H, is that John Candy standing on the sideline?" So I think what makes the story unique is the fact that how big the moment was, how pressure-packed the moment was, because I'm pretty sure all the 49er fans were sitting on their behind squeezing, because we needed to get the 96 yards to win the whole thing. And we felt like in the huddle, if Joe Montana, the bus driver, is that calm, we're in good hands. And it kind of calmed everybody down. And I was thinking, me as an individual, is, Jesse, don't hold. Make sure you do your job one play at a time. Don't look up, and good things will happen. And thank God Joe hit John Taylor with 36 seconds left to win that game.
I think every lineman and every player was probably thinking, don't let me jump. Don't let me hold. Don't let me F this up. Because, as you say, I mean, he was surgical on that drive. And you can say the same about Brady in certain plays he's done. But it was just back then, and I remember all of the Super Bowl wins, you knew that you would do it. And I never had any doubt. Yeah, I was clenching a bit, which every Niner fan was, right? No one's going to lie here and say they weren't. But you just knew Joe was going to come through somehow. And the thing that amazes me about all of this, and with you, Jesse, as well, and I promise you this is my last thing and then I'm going to let you go, but when you were seeing that greatness on the field, and obviously you picked the plays that you thinking, was there any time that the ball was hiked, you're doing your job, you're blocking, you're doing whatever, and all of a sudden you think, I can't believe Steve or Joe have just done that, and just amazed at the beauty of the play, whether it's a short pass that they turned into a touchdown or an 8-yard bomb or something like that. Did you ever sort of come off your blocks, look up and go, I can't believe we've done that?
I was amazed at a lot of the plays that we made, but it was never, I can't believe we just were, because I don't know if it's I think it's just a mindset that we had. We kind of expected it to happen. Jerry Rice was stronger in the fourth quarter than he was in the first quarter. That was where his greatness lied, is his ability to push you to the edge every game. Whoever pairs up with him, man to man. But the other guy, John Taylor, and some of the plays he made was unbelievable. Those 290 yards, quick slants that Joe hit him in stride, he must have broken like 4 tackles each on both of those plays, and took it the distance. So we knew when you have the greatest receiver to ever play the game, as far as his ability to compete and his ability to want to win, and then you have a freakish athlete as your second receiver, we're never out of anything, And Roger Craig was, he's going to be a Hall of Fame running back. Ricky Waters has a good chance to be a Hall of Fame running back. So, and like I said, we had 4 or 5 linemen that I played with that all made an appearance in the Pro Bowl. So we had a lot of talent. And then when you add two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, maybe that's why I'm a lot more patient than a lot of people. And what I'm looking at, do we have the positives to build around? Not necessarily win every game, but and I feel like we have positives to build around. We just got to get some of our guys back. We lost a deep defensive line that we had 2 years ago because we just couldn't afford them. I mean, DeForest Buckner was ours to develop. And as soon as he became eligible for free agency, we offered him $19 million a year, and Indianapolis offered him 21. What do you want us to do? When was the last time you guys ever thought a D lineman would turn down $19 million a year? But that's the way the game is. That's why I say Arizona is taking their shot right now because they can't keep everybody. So they're going for it right now. And what we're trying to do is win with what we have, but we can't afford to have devastating injuries. We're just not that deep like we were 2 years ago.
Definitely. Right, Jesse, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you, everybody.
I promise I won't blow up your Twitter for at least another 3 months to get you back on. But it's been an honor and a real privilege. Third time back. Can't thank you enough. And I know everybody here. Just, Dion, take it away because I'm fanboying right now. But Jesse, I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for coming on and talking to some English fool over here in the UK at 6:15 in the evening. I absolutely love you. Thank you for joining. And I'll just let everyone else say goodbye. But I do. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, Jesse. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time out of your day with us, just to be able to talk to us and tell us some stories, and give us your perspective on things. And yeah, man, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I would love for the 49ers to have you in to help that O-line. You know what I mean? I literally thought about it. I said, if Sapolu could come and help the O-line, that'd be great. If Patrick Willis could come help our linebackers, that'd be great. If Jerry coached our wide receivers, that'd be fantastic. I always think that's the way you build continuity and you keep, the team the same way. You bring in guys whose work ethic was second to none, and you put them around these dudes, and they wind up understanding that this is the way it's supposed to be. And they don't wind up floundering because they're understanding, hey, these guys did this and they did it consistently year in and year out. If we want to be anything like them, we've got to get on board with how they worked. Because I always look at it like when I saw that stretch, because I became a Niner fan in '85. I was born in '81. So, watching Jerry Rice catch a touchdown pass was what drove me to him. My mom used to tell me pick colors. So I would. And that day I happened to pick red and gold. And when I saw that touchdown pass, I said, Mom, who is that? And she looked at the screen. She goes, that's Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. And I was like, I don't want to pick another team. That's my team. And then she goes, okay. She goes, and my mom taught me a quick lesson. She said, whenever you say that's your team, you stick with them. Do not deviate from that team. I don't care if they lose. I don't care if they win. That's your team. And I've had that ever since then, man. And, being able to speak with somebody who has, the knowledge of the game and a great understanding is always, a blessing and a pleasure, man. And thank you so much for coming on. And I appreciate you keeping in touch with Hufanga because I expect a lot. I expect really big things from that kid in years to come.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Izzy, say goodbye to the myth, the man, the legend, 4-time Super Bowl champion Jesse Sapolu.
It has truly been my deepest honor and is completely humbling being able to talk to you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Unfortunately, Ryan. Oh no, Ryan's come back on. I thought he dropped out. But I'll just bring Ryan back. He's in and out. We have a saying in the UK. He's in and out like a fiddler's elbow. So hopefully, he's coming back to say goodbye. 1 second, Ryan. Say goodbye to the man. Oh, he's gone again. Look. Unfortunately, his signal dropped. Jesse, you're the man. Forever faithful.
Thank you, guys.
Always. And you hold a special place in my heart. And thank you. I won't hound you for another 6 months, but then I will start hounding you. So watch out. Jesse, thank you for spending time. It's been fantastic. We've had a lot of great questions, stories. I appreciate you. And I'm doing a
Thank
Dion. I'm just dumbstruck. Thank you very much.
Keep the faith.
Appreciate
Go
you.
Niners.
Take care, Jesse. See you soon.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
I don't know what to say. I just don't know. Dion, we're going to pick some games in a minute, but Dion, how good was that?
Man, it's always good talking to somebody like that, man. Like it's crazy because you know what I've noticed over the past couple of months? We as fans have been reaching out to former players, and they've actually come onto our shows. There was another guy who reached out to Paris Harrelson. A couple other people reached out to a few linebackers. Somebody reached out to, I believe, Julian Peterson. We ask these guys, and that shows you how well our players for our team are, because it doesn't make sense. These dudes don't have to do this stuff, but they appreciate us because, they look and go, well, without you guys, the game would suck. Because as much as players last year were like, oh, playing with fans, in the stands, is, without them, it's not that hard. Yes, it is. You know why? Because when you score and we cheer, you feed off that energy. But yeah, man, he's a very humble man, and you gotta appreciate him for the person that he is, for taking his time out of his day to come hang with us. But
the thing that
yeah, man,
amazed me the very, very first time I reached out to him, he was amazed that there was a British NFL show that actually wanted to have him on. And I'm like, fucking, I can swear now because he's gone. You're fucking crazy. Of course I'd want you on. Yeah, but the NFL, just give me 10 minutes. And he was actually on for, I don't know, nearly an hour and a half this time, which again, it's just, I can't put into words how amazing that is, that I've managed to get him on the show. And I am still trying to get Eric Davis, but it's very, very difficult. And as I say, I've hounded him for a year and not got an answer. Jesse, please come on, please come on. And then all of a sudden this week, he tweeted, and that's the thing with Twitter, you've got to catch it at the right time. So obviously, time zone, he was 8 hours behind, which is why I put the show on later today, because I didn't want to have him coming on at 7:30 in the morning or whatever. And I just said, look, I don't care what time it is, just please come on. And I kind of made a bit of a mistake because I'm crap with time zones. I do not get time zones right. So I said to him, yeah, come on at 9:30 your time. That's fine. And then I looked at it and I was like, shit, that means I've got to go at 4:30. But I can't go at 4:30 because obviously 2:30 is a normal time. But anyway, I worked it out. And that's the thing with like Eric Davis and Rashawn Haylock from Believing 49ers. It's very difficult to get them on, and I might have to record a show with them and not do it live. And you know, I prefer doing live content as opposed to recorded stuff because it's, to me, it's more, I don't know. I just like it when you hit the live button and you go for it. But yeah, Jesse, what a man. And I still can't believe that he wants to come on and talk to some fucking English twit. That's the thing that amazes me about all of this. He wants to come on and he's so still a Niner. That's the thing that stands out to me. It was always when we and I want and we are and that never leaves you, right? And we all know this as 49er fans, and we never played for the team, but it's always we and I, and that never ever leaves you ever. And I just don't know. Izzy, how was it for you?
Sorry, I forgot I was muted for a second. For me, it is really a dream come true. I mean, being on the East Coast, I haven't really met someone or had experience with someone I really look up to like that. I mean, I met Tony Dungy at the Marriott when he was here before he was coaching here, and I got to get his autograph from my brother one time, and that I thought was always going to be like the best moment ever, you know. And before that, we had a gym in West Patterson, now Woodland Park, and T. Barber used to train there under the same guy that my dad and my brother went and trained under. And he was able to get us a signed autograph, and it says Melissa and Brian from Tiki Barber. And I thought those were always going to be like the two moments like in a shot glass that I would have, like not about my team, but something I can hold on to and be proud of. And I actually got to talk to a Niner legend, and I'm still in awe. Like, I'm shocked I didn't start crying or losing my voice or something, but
the thing is, though, right, Izzy, you said you didn't really want to come on and you were quite happy to be part of it, but I actually
no.
really
I said I
want
wanted to come
you.
on. I just wasn't sure I could talk to him because I get awestruck talking to Silverado Kev.
I know exactly what you mean.
I got tongue-tied the very first time I was on with John V on Nothing But Niners, and they had me and John V come on with Brian and Nick, and I was just like, no, wait, that's John. Like, I get to talk to John. Like, I freaking flipped out. Like, I knew how I reacted, and I lost my cool a couple times on those shows, or talking to them, or thanking them when the camera's not live. So knowing myself, I get very emotional, and I didn't know if I could hold it together. So,
well, you did, and you did yourself proud, and you should be happy that you did. And I'm happy that you came. I really am, from the bottom of my heart, happy that you came on. You spoke to the man.
I actually had a good luck charm. I don't know if you could see it. I got my Niners Hive hoodie on.
There you go. So I'm just pleased that you managed to come on, do your stuff, and I'm proud of you. I am. I'm proud of you because I know how apprehensive you were, and I'm glad that I managed and we managed to ease you in as such, and that you could speak, because he is a lovely man. He is a lovely man, and he's so down to earth, and he is, you know, I know there's a saying, you know, if you cut him in half, you bleed red and gold, but that man actually does. And it was just, I've got to come down now, Ryan. I don't know about you, but I'm
calm down.
I've got to come down from that. And
Nick, I thank you so much for bringing me on here to talk to him, because it felt like I was a teenager again. It did. It felt like I was a kid again. And seeing him on this show, and it's probably my first ever talking to a legend on a TV show. I couldn't believe it. And if you ever have Montana or Young or Rice on here or John Taylor, I don't know. I may be crying, man. You might catch me crying.
Trust me, if I managed to get either of those three, I'd blow a fucking fuse, and they'd have to get a
If
different.
you even got, even if
to
you got the
revive me.
cowboy, I think I would just like uncontrollably sob.
Justin Cowboy, baby.
I think I would
Hmm.
literally uncontrollably sob if you had Justin Smith on.
Thing is, it's some people are easy to communicate with and get answers from, and some you can try forever and not get anywhere. And it's the thing is with Twitter, it's the luck of the draw. And I've managed over the years, not so much on Shank Club, but on my other account that unfortunately I should keep up and I don't, where Joe Montana's or retweeted or answered me. Steve Young's done the same. Hulk Hogan. I mean, the list is endless, but you've got to be in the right time. And I was so lucky that Jesse saw my original tweet and got me in and got me recognised and came on. And it's amazing. So, right. We aren't playing this week, thank God.
A lot of football, though. A lot of football still.
49ers Twitter could not handle
Can I ask something before we get into that?
Cool.
Did I hear that you're on the Garden State Parkway?
Yeah, I was actually. I had signal when I was talking to you guys in Walmart. I was fine, but then when I started leaving Walmart, as I was going towards ShopRite, that's where I lost my signal. I couldn't talk to you guys at all. I tried to keep on there. I'm sure he saw me in the backstage, and I couldn't get on. So I said, yeah, I'm hoping he's still on there with them by the time I hit the Parkway. When I got on the Parkway, it started rolling on. Like, oh, thank God. I could talk to him and answer my question to him. So right now I'm home, and yeah, I was heading home from Garden State Parkway.
I live not even 4 minutes away from the Garden State Plaza, so I'm very familiar with Paramus Road.
I came out. Yeah, I come off. I'll come off the Rio Grande Avenue entrance, and went past Courthouse, Mill Township, and I live in Dennisville, so that's where I'm at.
Does that mean I can say New Jersey, forget about it?
Forget about it.
There you go. You see, you knew you would never get away. Just one show where I can do my Jersey.
I love the movie, Johnny Depp movie. It's one of my favorite Italian movies ever. Donnie Brasco. I love Donnie Brasco movie. I do. When Johnny Depp played that part, he played awesome. He played it awesome. I mean, he was amazing in that movie.
Around, and I've got to catch up with the new Sopranos prequel, but apparently it's been completely panned by I don't know if going sidetracking here, Michael Francis, who was part of the Columbo family.
My mom used to watch a lot, so
has absolutely panned it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's crazy, Nick. Because I live so close to the Garden State Plaza, right? There's this big road that connects Saddlebrook, where I live, Rochelle Park, Paramus, Maywood, all those surrounding highways and everything. And on Paramus Road, where ShopRite is, which leads to the big mall, which is the biggest mall in the state, that fountain over there on the side, that's a little bit away from ShopRite, was actually where they did that big first chase scene. In that little tiny semicircle there.
Damn.
For the Sopranos. So every day I pass by what you always gush about.
I love New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm in down in Cape May County, so I only travel from Atlantic County. I go to Atlantic County for my wife's work. She works up Atlantic County. So I go back and forth every day, 120 miles for driving 5 times a week. So I know about the Garden State Parkway from Atlantic County all the way down to Cape May County.
As long as you never have to face 80 up here, because 80 is the most annoying, ridiculous,
How is it up there in North Jersey?
thing.
How is up there in North Jersey? How is up there?
Oh, it's awful. I don't know if you've ever been up that high, but in Patterson.
I went to Tom's River.
It literally goes from 4 lanes, you know, because it's like the national highway, which drives my dad still crazy to this day. It goes from 4 lanes and it bottlenecks down to 2 lanes, and then it's like the GW or the Lincoln. It's always in construction, so that it's even harder to get through that. And I hate it when I lived in Passaic County because you'd constantly have to go on Route 80 to get anywhere, and you'd have to face that horrible nightmare.
I mean, New Jersey Parkway is dangerous anymore. There's been so many accidents on this parkway. It's not even funny. All summer long.
And they're always redoing the roads because there's always potholes and issues.
From Summers Point. From Summers Point all the way up to Atlantic County at 36, exit 36. That road is being worked on every day. Every day. And it drives me nuts.
I've got to butt in here now and say, hey, yo, what's this? The new fucking Jersey channel? Come on now.
You always want to bring up our home state.
I fucking love
That's your
New
fault, Nick.
Jersey.
That's your fault.
I fucking love New Jersey. Right, listen, we're going to get up out of here.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you for joining. I'm so pleased you managed to speak to the legend, Jesse. Enjoy the rest of your day. Ryan, I know you've been in and out, but you managed to speak to the legend. And Dion, thanks for joining. Callie, everyone else that put in the comments, thank you so much for joining.
Hit the like, subscribe button. Hit the like, subscribe button, please.
Hit that like and subscribe, notifications. I've now got to go and got to cook some pizzas because that's what we do over here in England, and get some coffee. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Look at it.
Getting better coffee, at least.
She hates it, but I love it.
You're getting better coffee, at least.
Coffee. I want a cup of coffee. You just got to roll with it.
Now you're overdoing it a bit.
Coffee.
Can't help it. Yeah, coffee with a K. Love you all. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Nick.
This was the Jesse Sapolu Show. I was just a small part of it. Thank you all for joining. See you again next Wednesday. And forget about it.